Chapter 1180. By now, Qin Zhao almost couldn't feel gravity anymore. His body became very, very light. Even now, the magic in Qin Zhao's body could take over and allow him to fly freely. Qin Zhao had once deduced that humans could fly because the magic in their bodies had reached a certain quality. Just like a hot air balloon, the quality of the magic changed the density of the body. When the quality of the magic reached this level, humans could break free from the restraints of gravity. No, more accurately, they couldn't break free from gravity. They could float in the air. Until now, human technology had never been able to break free from gravity. What humans have been doing has always been using the principles of aerodynamics to float in the air. According to Qin Zhao's deductions, it should be the same for flying in the ancient records. If he was on the ground, Qin Zhao still couldn't fly. But at this height, the gravitational force was reduced. He could control his body now. But the air here was too thin, and it was too cold at this height. This was the stratosphere. Even some low-altitude satellites couldn't reach Qin Zhao's height. Qin Zhao felt his body start to change again. The golden key was reconstructing his body functions. This was the effect of the golden key. The golden key didn't make Qin Zhao stronger. Instead, it allowed him to adapt to the environment without being killed immediately. Just when Qin Zhao thought the two angels would disappear, the two angels suddenly pulled Qin Zhao down. They were falling too fast. Qin Zhao could feel his clothes igniting from the friction in the air. Qin Zhao didn't resist. Instead, he closed his eyes and started to feel the sky. He couldn't miss such a rare opportunity. The two angels had completely disappeared and Qin Zhao was in a free fall. Because of the high speed, Qin Zhao was like a shooting star. His body was completely burning. Suddenly, Qin Zhao opened his eyes. He felt it. He caught it. He finally caught that wondrous feeling. The sky was densely covered with countless vein patterns. Sky patterns. The sky was clear. But now, Qin Zhao was less than 100 meters below. Qin Zhao didn't resist. He continued his free fall. Poof! Qin Zhao fell into the sea, creating huge waves. About a minute later, Qin Zhao suddenly broke out of the water. Whoosh! The sky patterns weren't enough. He needed to find a piece of sky pattern and completely fuse with it. This was the true emptiness of heaven and earth. Let yourself become a part of this pattern, a part of the sky. There was no need to go to the sky anymore because once they left the ground, they would be part of the sky. High altitude was empty. Low altitude was also empty. As long as he raised his arm, he would be able to see the sky. Qin Zhao enjoyed the magical feeling. The moment Qin Zhao truly touched the patterns in the sky, he had already completed half of the emptiness of heaven and earth. What were the patterns of the sky? Qin Zhao didn't know what these patterns were. However, the spiritual qi in the world spread along the veined patterns. Qin Zhao's heart skipped a beat. The patterns in the sky were like the meridians in the human body. However, these meridians could not be seen by ordinary people. According to this line of thought, the entire world was a huge mana source. The veins of the sky were the meridians around the mana origin, also known as the heavenly veins. If he fused with a portion of the heavenly runes, it would mean that he had seized a portion of the heaven and earth's runes. At the same time, his mana source had been expanded. The size of the heavenly patterns he could fuse with was equivalent to the size of his mana source. For example, if the heavenly pattern he fused had a radius of 10 meters, then the area within 10 meters would become his mana source. It would not be like before, where he would have to restrain the mana in his body. At the same time, if someone came within 10 meters of him, it would be like entering his territory. He could attack more freely. In this territory, it was like his own little world. He could attack and defend as he pleased. The volume of his mana source had increased by more than 10 times, both in terms of its volume and its recovery ability. Qin Zhao started releasing his mana. He wanted to use his own mana to flow into the heavenly pattern as much as possible, and then expand the range of the heavenly pattern as much as possible. 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters, 50 meters. Chen Zhao's mana had already covered a radius of 50 meters. If he continued to release it, it would not be able to expand any further. 50 meters should be his current limit. No wonder Taoist cultivation had the concept of stealing from the heavens. It turned out that the emptiness of heaven and earth meant stealing from the world. Fuse! Chen Zhao suddenly retracted his mana. The heavenly pattern immediately fused with his mana. Success! Chen Zhao felt that everything within a 50-meter radius was like his limbs. Nothing could hide in this small world. This new sensory experience was too special for Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao's small world was madly absorbing the spiritual qi in the world to fill his mana. Chen Zhao's body slowly rose from the sea. By now, he could already fly into the sky. His body became very light, very, very light. The quality of his mana made his body less dense than air. When Chen Zhao wanted to go higher, he realized that he could not go very high. Still not enough? The small world did not seem to be as smooth as he had imagined. Was it because he had only understood half of it? The emptiness of heaven and earth. He had only understood the part of the sky. If the sky was the meridians of the world, then the earth was the source of mana. One could also think of the earth as a huge internal elixir. The earth essence he had obtained from the big spider might be the substance of the earth's internal elixir. In other words, had to go deep underground and absorb enough earth essence to truly reach the emptiness of heaven and earth. As Chen Zhao thought about it, he flew across the sea. At the moment, he could fly at a height of around 10 meters. It was not very high. However, his speed was much faster than running on the ground. Bamiza, is that man dead? Bamiza looked into the distance and shook his head. His aura did not disappear. Instead, it became stronger. He reminds me of the old man I saw when I went to China 50 years ago. This aura is exactly the same. Let's go. I can feel danger approaching, Lakoko said. When they left the underground parking lot, they suddenly felt a huge pressure from the distance. Bamiza's gaze turned serious. He's here. Right now, Chen Zhao was looking down at Misha and Rococo on the road. Chapter 1181. Ms. Lakoko, Ms. Baisa, please leave first. We'll stop him. The three knights unsheathed their swords and pointed them at Chen Zhao. Go back, Baisa said calmly. You don't have to do anything. Don't say that I don't respect the old. You asked for it. You attacked me first, Chen Zhao said. Baisa looked at Chen Zhao. You're from China's Mao Mountain. No, Chen Zhao said indifferently. It's not a good idea to build a relationship right now. Also, I don't think there's a need for us to keep talking. I also don't think there's a need for us to keep talking, Baisa said, crossing her fingers. Suddenly, Chen Zhao realized that he couldn't move his body. Immediately, 4 angels appeared around Chen Zhao. Each angel held a golden spear and pointed it at Chen Zhao. Do you think the same move will work on me? Chen Zhao tried to break free, but he couldn't. Just then, the 4 angels stabbed their golden spears at Chen Zhao. The feeling of his skin being pierced was very uncomfortable. Chen Zhao struggled even more fiercely. Baisa's hands also trembled from Chen Zhao's struggle. Baisa quickly changed her hand gestures. Pointing 2 fingers at Chen Zhao, she yelled, "Seal!" Silver-white eggshells appeared around him. They looked very unreal, as if they were made of some kind of light particles. The eggshells started to cover Chen Zhao. Like a jigsaw puzzle, they kept assembling. Chen Zhao didn't plan on waiting for death. He finally used his full strength. His body shook, and the 4 angels became illusory. Chen Zhao punched through the eggshell, and Baisa spat out a mouthful of blood. Let's go before he escapes, Baisa said. Lakoko looked back at Chen Zhao. Although Chen Zhao was covered by a sealing spell, Baisa's spell couldn't be completed. Even you can't seal this guy. Lakoko didn't want to continue fighting and quickly left the scene. Chen Zhao broke free from the seal and touched the part of his body that had been pierced. Chen Zhao was in a bad mood. He was inexplicably attacked and inexplicably almost sealed by someone. The most important thing was that these strange enemies had actually escaped. Chen Zhao entered the underground parking lot. By then, Sibylla and the others had already left. Only the 1,000-faced demon spirit was still lying on the ground. Because it had been corroded by the dark lava, its consciousness was about to be erased. Needless to say, the 1,000-faced demon spirit's consciousness was very strong. Its consciousness was resentment toward Chen Zhao. But now he was going to be controlled by Chen Zhao, so his resistance was even stronger. Moreover, it wasn't just a single consciousness, but hundreds of hatred and resentment. Therefore, it was very troublesome for the dark lava to completely erase the 1,000-faced demon spirit's consciousness. However, he wasn't in a hurry. He sent the demon spirit into the dark lava and let it slowly erase its consciousness. When Chen Zhao returned to the hotel, the people upstairs had already left. Chen Zhao didn't expect them to wait for death. Actually, Chen Zhao had already calmed down. Anger is a momentary thing. Anger and hatred are not the same. Basako had sent people to attack Fei Lai and Zhilin, so Chen Zhao hated Basako. This hatred wouldn't disappear. Rococo and the others attacking him infuriated Chen Zhao. Anger only lasted for a moment. After that, the feeling of anger would gradually decrease. Fei Lai, go watch Tiger's match. As Chen Zhao's disciple, Chen Zhao was obviously very concerned about Tiger's match. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't doubt Tiger's victory at all. Tiger was much stronger than professional fighters, let alone amateurs. In the past few days, Tiger had KO'd his opponents consecutively and entered the finals like he was invincible. Today's match was the finals. In today's match, Tiger's opponent was also a professional boxer. However, he could only be considered a rookie. Compared to Tiger, who'd won a WBA championship belt right after his debut, he really couldn't be compared. Moreover, Tiger's performance in the past few days was indeed unstoppable. Of course, this was a big sports competition. Even the competition was at the amateur level. Even if Tiger won, he wouldn't gain any glory. So, Tiger was still more restrained during the match. Even if he KO'd his opponent, he would do his best not to hurt his opponent's career. Tiger had suffered a fatal blow before, so he knew very well how serious professional injuries were for a boxer. Now Tiger was more mature. He saw himself as a senior. Even when he came to the competition, he had the mentality of teaching a junior. So, the matches were relatively easy. The opponents he KO'd would also hug him or take pictures with him after the match. For many of them, Tiger was their idol. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai carried Zhilin to the boxing gym at the same time. Chen Zhao found Tiger, who was warming up. "Hi, Tiger," Fei Lai greeted him. Tiger would occasionally freeload at their place, so they were quite familiar with each other. "Hello, Ms. Fei Lai." "Tiger, don't go easy later. Beat your opponent down." "Don't listen to Fei Lai," Chen Zhao quickly said. "Just fight like before." This wasn't a professional match. Tiger already had a clear advantage. He didn't have to kill the other contestants. It was like a match between an adult and a kindergartner. It wasn't honorable for an adult to go all out against a child. If it was a professional match, Chen Zhao wouldn't say anything like going easy. He hoped that Tiger would use all his strength. "Mr. Chen, I know. I'm going to fight now." "Okay, go." The match soon started. Tiger indeed didn't go all out. The match dragged on for 4 rounds. In the end, Tiger really went all out. Other than Chen Zhao's words, it was also because of the TV station's request. They wanted Tiger to delay the match. In boxing, KO Genji was what the audience loved to watch. But if every match was KO'd, it would be too boring. It wouldn't be enjoyable. So, the TV station wanted the match to slow down. Chapter 1182. After the competition, Chen Zhao left after exchanging a few words with Tiger. As the leader, Chen Zhao had a lot of things to do. Don't think that everything will be fine after you bring the contestants to the competition. For example, a girl had gone missing yesterday. Chen Zhao and the other coaches had been looking for her in San Diego for an entire day. In the end, they found out that the girl had gone out to play after the competition. However, her phone had fallen into the sea, so they couldn't reach her. More than 100 students were out there. It was much more troublesome than Chen Zhao had initially thought. Chen Zhao also understood why schools and teachers would often expel students after they made mistakes, regardless of their future. It was because of the worry and anger they felt when the incident happened. As the leader, Chen Zhao had too many responsibilities. He even had to care about a student who wasn't feeling well, or if a student from his school was judged unfairly during the competition. Chen Zhao had to negotiate too. By the way, Fei Lai, how did the pet competition go? Yesterday was just a qualifier. Baressa and I agreed that whoever gets the final championship will win, Fei Lai said. In the qualifiers, we have to make sure that the pets aren't dangerous. For example, someone brought a cougar and it killed the other person's pet squirrel. Chen Zhao wasn't worried that his pet would go berserk. Who did you bring yesterday? Princess, Fei Lai said. Chen Zhao nodded. Princess seemed to be the most dangerous, but in reality she was the safest. When will the finals start? 2 more rounds, and then the finals. It's in 5 days. 5 days! There were only 2 days left in the sports competition. They had to leave the day after tomorrow. However, it was impossible for Fei Lai to leave early. Fei Lai had her own reasons. However, Chen Zhao didn't feel at ease leaving her alone in San Diego. It seemed that she had to stay for 2 more days. L.A. and San Francisco were arch enemies. The competitions between them were the most intense, especially the swimming team. Apart from Evely, there was no one else on UCLA's swimming team that could compete. Although she had also participated in the 100m and 200-meter freestyle events, the swimming team hadn't won any other events apart from her. The two sides had a heated debate. UCLA mocked UCSF for not having a single famous player, while UCSF mocked UCLA for only having Evely. Although the 10 branches of the University of California were like one mother, there were many competitive relationships between them. From the resources to the source of students to the sports, it was like a war between 10 countries. Chen Zhao also encountered many provocations. After all, as long as it was a competition between schools, the other schools would attack and provoke each other. Everyone was filled with the smell of gunpowder toward people from other schools. After the student competition, Chen Zhao even ran a 10,000-meter race with the coaches of other schools. In any case, everyone in this competition was trying their best to fight for glory for their school. Even if it wasn't a formal competition, it was just a matter of beating everyone. To be honest, the atmosphere of the sports meet was very strange, but it filled the students and teachers with excitement. In this year's UCLA sports meet, UCLA did very well and won the most medals. He still attended the closing ceremony. The next day, he brought his students back to Los Angeles. After sending the students to school safely, Chen Zhao went straight to San Diego. When Chen Zhao followed Fei Lai to the venue of the pet competition, he saw a huge crowd of protesters. Who are they? Chen Zhao asked in confusion. The protesters organized by the Animal Protection Society. They think that keeping wild animals as pets and even bringing them to the competition is disrespectful to animals. Oh, they're really free. Their perspectives were different, so their way of thinking was different too. Like now, Chen Zhao had a bunch of pets at home. Naturally, Chen Zhao thought that there was nothing wrong with pets. To put it bluntly, they had different standpoints. Of course, the protesters didn't affect the event. They only put up a banner outside and didn't cause any trouble. Little Jerlin sat on Princess's back and looked at the huge crowd excitedly. To be honest, Jerlin sitting on Princess's back still attracted a lot of attention. Hi everyone, I'm Pick. A man dressed like a cowboy pulled a brown bear to Qin Zhao, Feilai, and Princess. When he looked at Princess, his eyes lit up. This guy is really big. Hello. The two got to know each other. Pick was here to talk about training and raising bears with Qin Zhao and Feilai. Pick's brown bear was called Lar. It was also really big, weighing around 600 to 700 kilograms. But compared to Princess, it was much smaller. Princess was the largest pet among all the pets participating in the competition this time. This big guy is called Princess, right? I've seen her information before. Are you willing to let her breed with my Lar? Lar finally set his goal. Sorry, Princess has her own family. Unless she's willing, we won't force her to breed with others. Okay. Pick didn't force it. He couldn't force it anyway. Plus, Pick also raised bears. It was obvious that he really liked Lar. Therefore, she actually felt that Qin Zhao's answer was a sign of appreciation. As soon as Pick left, Barisa arrived. Beside her was an old man with a goatee. The old man was leading a chimpanzee. You're here too. Barisa looked at Qin Zhao, her eyes full of provocation. Are you here to see how your stupid bear loses? The competition hasn't started yet. Isn't it too early to talk about this? Do you know who it is? Barisa pointed at the chimpanzee. It's called Caesar. It's the same name as the main character in the movie Rise of the Planet of the Apes. According to tests, Caesar has the intelligence of a 10-year-old. How stupid. Our princess has the intelligence of an adult, right, princess? As the saying went, one should not lose in spirit even if they lost in battle. Roar! Princess howled as if in response to Qin Zhao's words. The old man with a goatee, who came with Barisa, looked at the princess and said, What an intelligent brown bear! Mr. Rudy, you're my man. How can you speak for someone else? Chapter 1183. Not long after, the competition began. Jerlin couldn't sit on Princess anymore. Jerlin sitting on Princess's back was very eye-catching, but in principle it was against the rules. Only one person could follow a pet to prevent multiple commands from affecting the result of the competition. Qin Zhao held Jerlin in the audience seats. Jerlin was very excited. This was the first time she had seen so many strange pets. His mouth didn't stop and he just kept laughing. The competition was actually quite simple. Even the audience seats were temporary. Holding Princess's hand, Feilai entered the competition. The audience immediately applauded. Many of the audience loved animals. Princess's special body would naturally attract a lot of attention. The judge explained the rules to Feilai and the other contestants. First, they had to pass through obstacles without traction. The pets in the same group as Princess were all medium to large pets. Lar, Bix brown bear, was also in the same group. On the other side of the competition, there was another group for small pets. This was to prevent the large pets from stepping on the small ones. The pets that could participate in the finals all had a certain level of intelligence. However, their intelligence wasn't comprehensive. Sometimes they might hurt other pets by accident. This competition didn't compete on speed, endurance, or strength. It was based on points. As long as a pet passed all the obstacles in the obstacle course, they would get 10 points. If a pet went around an obstacle, 1 point would be deducted. Before the competition began, all the pet owners talked to their pets. Feilai patted Princess's head. Princess, do well later. Oh, don't step on other pets. Feilai didn't talk to Princess about the rules at all. She could understand the judge. As for whether Princess could finish the competition, there was no doubt. Under the judge's verbal command, the competition began. Princess swayed her big butt and strolled toward the obstacle course. Some of the other pets were fast and some were slow. A jaguar took the lead, taking the lead to drill through the first cylinder track and then jumped over the tripod. There was also a pet slower than Princess. It was a tortoise. Following behind the princess, he slowly moved forward. The tortoise's owner was a girl, about 15 or 16 years old. She was very anxious. This competition was very disadvantageous for her pets. There were many obstacles that tortoises couldn't pass. Globe, take your time. There's no rush. If he lost points in the obstacle course, he could only try to catch up in the later events. At this time, Princess had also passed through the cylinder track and arrived in front of the tripod. The tripod was 1 meter high. As long as Princess stood up, she would be able to cross the track without jumping. However, the princess did not go over immediately. Instead, she looked back at the Galapagos tortoise. Roar! The princess called out to the Galapagos tortoise. Just then, the girl beside Phalai grew nervous. What does your pet want? When the girl saw the princess's figure, she was afraid that it would hurt her pet. Phalai smiled at the girl. It's asking your pet if it needs help. The girl's eyes widened. But they are of different races. Are you sure that's what it meant? Of course. The princess is very smart and kind. The Galapagos tortoise stretched its neck and nodded slowly. The princess lifted the Galapagos tortoise and pushed it over the tripod. This scene was seen by the audience, and everyone let out an uproar. No one believed that a bear would actually know how to help others. Moreover, they were of a different race and in an unnatural state. But with so many pets present, only Princess could help the Galapagos tortoise cross the tripod. The other pets weren't big or strong enough. Only Princess could ignore the 400-kilogram Galapagos tortoise's weight. Princess climbed over the tripod herself. Then she walked slowly to the next stage with the Galapagos tortoise. They seemed to have become friends. Your bear is really smart, the girl said. But it's not as smart as my Earth globe. As pet owners, everyone present was full of confidence in their pets. With Princess' help, the Galapagos tortoise also completed 10 obstacles. Both it and the Earth globe got full marks. The girl walked up to Princess. Can I take a picture with it? It's called Princess, right? Yes. At the end of this group's obstacle course, 3 pets had scored full 10 points. The princess, the Earth globe, and the jaguar that had taken the lead earlier. The other pets more or less went around 1 or 2 obstacles. Some even lost the ability to think halfway. The next round of the competition was about to begin. This time the contestants had to find 10 coins in a field the size of a basketball court. The time limit was 10 minutes. After the 10 minutes, those who found 10 coins would get 10 points. 1 coin less meant 1 point less. Sister Phalai, can you ask Princess to help the Earth globe? The girl looked at Phalai with watery eyes. This race wasn't friendly to turtles. But this race didn't restrict pets. There were all kinds of pets. It was impossible to take care of every animal. You should ask Princess directly. The girl looked at Princess. She was still a bit afraid of her. Princess, can you help the Earth globe? Roar, the girl looked at Phalai. It said yes. Race start. The judge still gave the order verbally. These kinds of animal races couldn't use guns or electronic bells, because if he used a gun or something like that, it was very likely that the animals would be frightened. After the race started, Princess indeed helped the Galapagos tortoise find 10 coins. Then she quickly found 10 coins herself. They were the contestants who finished the race first. But just then, someone else was unhappy. Judge, that's against the rules. They're cheating. The judge glanced at the protesting person and said in a matter-of-fact tone, the rules don't restrict them from helping each other. This race is a test of the pet's intelligence. Helping each other is also a display of intelligence. In fact, the judge was also very surprised by Princess's performance. This wasn't the first time this race was held. The judge had been a judge for many. He'd seen many smart animals, but he'd never seen such an intelligent animal. It actually knew how to help other contestants. 10 minutes later, the judge announced the results. The second round is over, the judge said. Contestants with less than 12 points will lose the right to compete in the third round. Now for the final intelligence quiz. There were a total of 8 contestants with more than 12 points. The venue was rearranged. In front of each contestant was a table with 4 buttons, A, B, C, and D. Chapter 1184. Each pet had its own platform. Some pets were placed directly on the platform. Of course, some platforms were shorter and more suitable for adjustment. Boris's chimpanzee was also in the finals. It was sitting on the platform right now. Then let's start. The judge took the card and started reading the questions. First question, a little girl sleeps at 9 every night and sleeps for 9 hours. What time does she wake up the next day? A at 5, B at 6, C at 7, B at 8. This was a math question, and it was different from the usual animal math questions, which were questions that were written using icons. This was a question that was written using spoken English. Apart from testing the pets' understanding of human language, it also tested their logical calculation. With this question, more than half of the 8 contestants were eliminated. Only 3 pets could answer: Princess, Globe, and Caesar the chimpanzee. One question was enough to tell the difference between an ordinary pet and a real psychic pet. Animals had language too, but it was simpler. For example, dogs didn't use language to chat. Instead, they used it to express simple intentions and emotions. For example, eating, playing, sleeping, territory, happiness, sadness, and so on. Under normal circumstances, dogs or other animals couldn't understand the logic of human language. It wasn't just because they couldn't make complex sounds like humans, but also because they couldn't understand the logic of human language. They could barely understand 1 or 2 words. The simplest examples were sitting down and shaking hands. But if it was a sentence, it was hard to judge and understand. Of course, there was another type of animal, like genetic mutation. There were also geniuses among animals. There are individual cases of intelligent geniuses in certain species. They could understand longer sentences and even completely understand the meaning and logic of human language. Chun Zhao watched the competition with Jerlin in his arms. He wasn't surprised by Princess's performance at all. He wasn't surprised by Caesar's performance either, because chimpanzees were the only species with high intelligence in the animal kingdom. Especially trained chimpanzees, their intelligence could even reach the level of an 8-year-old human child. Chimpanzees were also the only primate species that had the emotion of shame. In the research of zoologists, they'd found that regret was a relatively advanced emotion. That was because repentance required logical thinking. So, Caesar's reaction wasn't out of Chun Zhao's expectations, but the elephant-tortoise performance surprised him. It was rare to hear of turtles with super high intelligence. Holding his phone, Chun Zhao looked up the types of globes. The globe should be the Galapagos tortoise, the largest tortoise on Earth. Their diet is vegetarian and they are very docile. Adult males weigh between 280 and 330 kilograms, with the heaviest possibly exceeding 400 kilograms. The Galapagos tortoises also had an extremely long lifespan. If there were no natural or man-made disasters, they could live for more than 200 years. Due to their size, they also had a brain capacity that other turtles did not have. Therefore, in terms of intelligence, it was indeed smarter than other medium-sized and small turtles. However, it was rare to hear that they had intelligence close to that of chimpanzees. The second question, the 3 pets answered correctly again. Third question, fourth question, fifth question, with the princess's wisdom, she could easily answer some common-sense questions. These questions posed no difficulty to it. However, when it came to Caesar and the globe, he began to hesitate. The only way to stump the princess was to ask some complicated math questions. If the questions were all common sense, Princess could play for an entire afternoon. However, this was a pet quiz, not a math test, so he couldn't give them math questions with more than 2 digits. Princess's ability to add, subtract, multiply, and divide was probably better than most Americans. Finally, at the 12th question, Caesar could not answer. Caesar showed a very human-like expression of disappointment and even looked at Rudy in shame. Now, only the competition between Princess and the globe was left. The judge looked at the two extremely smart pets. These two species were also frequent participants in previous pet competitions. However, they were not frequent competitors in the finals. In fact, they had never been there before. Now, it had become a showdown between the two of them. But after 30 questions, the judge had finished all the questions in his card, and there was still no winner between Princess and the globe. The audience was in disbelief. The judge was also troubled. This was something that had never happened before. These two pets were really too smart. After discussing with the organizer, the judge found Phalai and the owner of the globe to discuss. There was no point in continuing like this. Because the two pets could answer all 30 questions, it meant that their understanding of common sense had reached or was close to that of a normal person. So, there was no winner even if they kept asking. In the end, the result of the discussion was to come up with the last question. Let Princess and the globe arrange the 26 letters in their own way. The result of this overtime was Princess's victory, because Princess really did know the 26 letters. Coincidentally, she did, but the globe only arranged 6 letters, A, B, C, D, F, and couldn't arrange anything after that. In the end, Princess became the champion of this year's pet competition. Other than the $50,000 prize, there was also a medal with the word wisdom engraved on it. The girl was quite happy that the globe was the runner-up. Although it didn't win, she thought it was because it was a bit unlucky. If the final question segment had continued, the globe might not have lost. After the competition ended, many spectators fought to take a photo with the princess and the globe. They were pretty much the smartest animals that humans could imagine. Especially Princess' stunning performance. She won many people's attention. Someone even asked Phalai to buy Princess. Of course, no one said anything. Princess was not for sale. Chun Zhao and Phalai brought Princess. Jerlin sat on Princess back again and went to find Barisa. Ms. Barisa, looks like you lost. Oh, what's this chimpanzee called? Caesar, right? What a mighty name, haha. Chun Zhao had won the bet, so he obviously had to challenge Barisa. Otherwise, the fun of winning would be gone. Barisa's face darkened. The money is in Evely's account. With that, she turned to leave. Ludi looked at Princess. She's really too smart. I've never seen such a smart animal. Sir, have you considered selling her? I'm willing to buy her for $1 million. Chun Zhao pursed his lips. Someone had offered $2 million before, but Chun Zhao had only rolled his eyes. Chapter 1185. Little Jerlin puffed up her cheeks and stared at Ludi, indignant. Sir, I hope that you won't say such inappropriate things again, Chun Zhao said calmly. Ludi, what are you still doing there? Let's go. Barisa was extremely displeased. $30 million. She'd actually lost $30 million just because of a moment of anger. She'd never spent so much money in her life. Now, she'd actually given it to someone else to spend. Barisa was upset, but the money was in Evely's account. After the competition, Chun Zhao's family drove home. The last time Cause came, he'd driven Chun Zhao's RV. This time, Chun Zhao's family left in the RV. Chun Zhao purposely slowed down so that Phalai and Jerlin could enjoy the scenery along the way. Jerlin had been in San Diego for a few days and hadn't gone anywhere. Chun Zhao was worried, so he didn't let her go out. After all, San Diego was unfamiliar with the place. Chun Zhao was more familiar with Los Angeles. He'd rather have Jerlin play in Los Angeles. When they got home, Jerlin jumped into the water eagerly. The other friends also jumped in impatiently. Apart from King Kong, all the other animals liked to play in the water. To Chinese, water was wealth. Water could make money. Only with water could there be wealth. Chun Zhao also liked water, so all the properties he showed off had water in them. Before going to San Diego, Chun Zhao went to his beach construction site to take a look. The early stage of the beach construction had been completed. Next up was the main construction. Qin Zhao hoped that he could move into his new home before his second child was born. It was a gift for Fei Lai and also for his second child. After returning home, Chen Zhao felt that his heavenly pattern had become even heavier. That's right, it was heavy, and his movements had become a little sluggish. The heavenly pattern was filled with magic, but it also put a lot of pressure on Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao entered the river diagram. Old Turtle, you're here. Humph. Your whole family went out to play and left me here. Old Turtle looked angry. Chen Zhao's family had been gone for around 10 days, but for the old turtle, it was almost 30 years. Huh. You seem to have reached the state of emptiness. Old Turtle's tone suddenly changed. He studied Chen Zhao closely. But why do I feel very uncomfortable? Especially after returning home, I feel even more uncomfortable. It's very heavy, as if God is carrying dozens of tons of weight on his back. No one would feel comfortable carrying such a heavy load. Fortunately, it was Chen Zhao. If it were someone else, they would have collapsed from the pressure. This was not a psychological burden, but a real one. Come here, let me see you. Chen Zhao walked up and let Old Turtle check. Old Turtle pressed down on Chen Zhao's lower abdomen. Old Turtle was even more surprised. You only finished half? You've only achieved primal chaos emptiness, but not primal chaos emptiness? Is the primal chaos emptiness you speak of a comprehension of the heavens? That's right. The sky is chaos and the earth is chaos. Old Turtle nodded. You've achieved primal chaos emptiness, and you've merged chaos with your body. Chaos has weight. The burden you feel is the pressure of chaos. Old Turtle paused and then said, Only when you've achieved primal chaos emptiness can you make your body a real small world. Chaos is above chaos, and chaos is below chaos. The two complement each other, and you can achieve true primal chaos emptiness. Why is the pressure even greater when I'm home? Nonsense. The spiritual energy in Mirror Lake is several times greater than in other places. Your incomplete miniature world is absorbing even more spiritual energy, so of course the pressure is greater. Fortunately, it's you. Your fleshly body is far beyond that of an ordinary person. If it was someone else cultivating the same way as you, their body would collapse in less than half a day. However, you have to be faster. The spiritual energy in your miniature world has not reached perfection yet. Once it reaches perfection, you will have to endure 10 times the pressure now. Chen Zhao was already feeling uncomfortable all over. If the pressure increased by 10 times, he would probably be crushed to death by it too. It seemed that the trip to the core abyss could not be delayed any longer. You have comprehended the primal chaos emptiness, so you must have some understanding of the truth of this world. What you need to do now is to complete the primal chaos emptiness as soon as possible. Just like the world, there is a heaven and an earth. Chen Zhao nodded and left the river map with a heavy heart. What was primordial chaos? In the Taoists' explanation, primordial essence is Dan. The top was clear and the bottom was turbid. As Old Turtle had said, the world was an internal alchemy and the atmosphere was the meridians. Regardless of who this inner core and meridians belonged to, whether they were formed naturally or left behind by some extremely powerful deity, the inner core and meridians didn't matter. Now that he wanted to complete the chaotic emptiness, he had to form the inner core. In the past, Chen Zhao had thought that Taoist's inner alchemy was actually a stone. But now, Chen Zhao no longer had such thoughts. Fei Lai, I'm going out later. I might be gone for a long time. You and Jerlin stay at home. Okay, be careful on the road. Chen Zhao rushed to the headquarters anxiously. Klaus, you guys come over here. I have some questions for you. Chen Zhao called the entire lightning squad over. President, what's up? I want to ask you guys, how do you tell the direction in a maze-like place where you can't use navigation at all? I can't, Klaus said honestly. You can't. Animals can, but humans can't, Klaus said. A human sense of direction requires a reference. Without a reference, You can't tell the direction. It's not completely impossible, another member objected. Another member raised an objection. As long as you can mark every intersection and remember these markings, you can follow the markings on your way back. Then you can come back. But this method isn't safe, Klaus said. There's a certain risk, but it's the only way. Can you make a location-based transceiver? Qin Zhao asked. Yes, but there's a certain flaw in this method. The power is low, the signal is weak, and the penetration is poor. These flaws were exactly what Chen Zhao needed the most. Satellite navigation definitely wouldn't work deep underground. Satellite signals couldn't penetrate that deep. After thinking for a while, Chen Zhao suddenly thought of an idea. Chapter 1186. Help me prepare a large amount of rope. It has to be heat-resistant. Heat-resistant? Fire ropes can withstand at least 1,500 degrees, Klaus said. President, is 500 meters enough? No, Qin Zhao said. The more, the better. Get as much as you can. Chen Zhao was an impatient person. He didn't like waiting. Klaus immediately went to buy fire ropes too. Then he brought them back by the truckload. He brought back a total of 200,000 meters of firefighting rope. It was a firefighter's special rope. It was made of carbon fiber and had strong heat resistance. Even if the temperature exceeded 1,500 degrees, the rope wouldn't burn. It would only carbonize and not be suitable for bearing heavy weights. President, where are you going? Klaus asked. Do you want us to go with you? Seeing that Chen Zhao had brought so many ropes and what he'd just said, they all felt that Chen Zhao was going to do something. No, I'm going deep underground. You guys can't go. President, we've also undergone high-temperature training. The place I'm going is more than 2,000 meters deep. The average temperature is more than 150 degrees. Are you sure? What did 150 degrees mean? The water was only 100 degrees. Bringing Klaus and the others was like throwing them into boiling water. No matter how well-trained they were, they couldn't endure such a hot environment. If they went to that depth, they'd die of dehydration in less than a minute. Hearing that, Klaus and the others felt helpless. If Chen Zhao was going to fight some monster, they thought they could protect themselves. Even if they couldn't unleash their combat power, they could at least give Qin Zhao some logistical help. But he had to go to such an extreme environment. Apart from an inhuman existence like Chen Zhao, no one else could endure such an extreme environment. Then, Qin Zhao brought a large amount of fresh water. Of course, it was all in his spatial ring. After changing his clothes, Qin Zhao set off. He had to go to the mountains and then the abyss. So he couldn't wear normal clothes. After all, in the hot environment deep underground, normal clothes might get hot. Qin Zhao changed into a fiber camouflage suit. It could withstand high temperatures. Qin Zhao wanted to fly directly, but ever since returning to Los Angeles, the weight on his body had been increasing. Qin Zhao had only experienced flying for a short while in San Diego. After that, he couldn't fly anymore. Otherwise, it would be quite good to use for such a short distance journey. After walking for an hour, Qin Zhao rehydrated himself. Suddenly he saw a fire ahead. Rustle. The rock under Qin Zhao's feet loosened and made a sound. A few voices came from the direction of the fire ahead. Who's there? Come out. Qin Zhao frowned. These people seemed to be reacting very strongly. Qin Zhao walked to the light. The people around the fire were all armed. Qin Zhao was confused. Who were these people? The weapons in their hands were not ordinary firearms or hunting rifles, but military equipment. Judging from their temperament and physique, they didn't look like ordinary people who were here to hunt. Qin Zhao raised both hands. I'm here to hunt. Hunting? Did you come here to hunt empty-handed? They looked at Qin Zhao suspiciously. I met a wild boar just now, Qin Zhao said. It stole my gun. These people began to discuss in low voices. Qin Zhao heard everything they said. Come here. Are you hungry? Do you want to eat something? They put down their guns and suddenly became friendly. Thank you. Chen Zhao didn't stand on ceremony. He sat before the fire and started eating. These people realized that Chen Zhao's appetite was shocking. After sitting down, they didn't stay idle. In less than 20 minutes, he finished half of the food for the 5 of them. How long has it been since you last ate? I eat a lot. Do you mind? Chen Zhao's expression was playful. If they wanted to play dumb with him, then he would play dumb with them too. Not at all. As Chen Zhao ate, he studied the people. Oh, are you hunters too? Yeah, do you live nearby? No, I don't, but I've been here more than once. I know where there's a lot of prey. Do you want me to take you there? There's no need for that. We have our own destination. These people declined politely. Oh, aren't you going to camp here? We're here to hunt. There's more prey at night. It's better to hunt at night than during the day, the people said. Let's go hunting together. Chen Zhao realized that they'd already removed the safety. Clearly, if Chen Zhao didn't agree, they would use their own methods to make Chen Zhao agree. Sure, but can you give me a gun? Sorry, each of us has a gun. We can't give you one. Chen Zhao followed behind the 5. Chen Zhao pretended not to hear their mutterings in front of him. Saint SK, are you sure that thing really exists here? Of course. You've all seen the pictures. As long as we catch it, we'll be rich. The other 4's eyes lit up. They were clearly very excited. I heard that there used to be a military base here, but because of that monster, the entire base was abandoned. Even the army has to leave. Are you sure we can handle it with just a few guns? Don't worry. We just need to catch one. It's not like we have to kill them all. What about this guy? Bring him with us first. When we get close, we'll kill him and use his blood to lure it. How do you know that thing eats people? Of course. Do you think those sharp teeth are for nothing? We're here to catch that thing. Isn't it bad to kill people for that? What's wrong with that? He's just unlucky to run into us. Anyway, we're deep in the forest. If he dies, no one will know that we did it, Saint SK said. Saint Siko said, besides, when we catch that thing and have money, we can form a bigger team and catch more of this kind of thing. When that time comes, we can sell this thing all over the world. Only we know that this kind of monster exists here. If the news is leaked, others will come here to catch it. Who would buy us then? Chen Zhao had to admit that he agreed with these people's thoughts, but he was doubtful about one thing. Even if the 5 of them had automatic weapons, they could still catch the crypt demon. Could they really catch the crypt demon? Chapter 1187. They were close to the crypt demon's entrance. Just then, a figure appeared before them. It was a male crypt demon with 50% of its exoskeleton. It was 4 meters long. Its thick limbs meant that it didn't fear any creature in the forest. Even the automatic weapons in their hands couldn't threaten it. You go. Sanct SK suddenly pointed his gun at him. Do you want me to die? You ate our food. So of course you have to do something for us, Sanct SK said matter-of-factly. I'll just pay you back. No need. You just have to go and lure that big guy over. Stop talking and go. Chen Zhao looked at the 5 people before him. You're making a very stupid decision. If you don't go, I'll kill you. Suddenly, the crypt demon disappeared. Sanct SK, where did that thing go? Behind you. Sanct SK suddenly shouted, but it was too late. The crypt demon had already attacked. It bit one of them and dragged him into the darkness. Sanct SK and the others tried to chase, but the crypt demon was too fast. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared into the darkness. The person who was dragged away didn't even have time to scream. Even a well-trained mercenary team couldn't fight a male crypt demon, let alone these amateur players. They weren't even real hunters before this. They should be jobless vagrants or gangsters. Soon, the second person was dragged away by the crypt demons, but there was nothing they could do. Run, run. We can't go on like this. I don't want to die here. The 3 of them gave up very decisively and immediately wanted to retreat. But when they ran a few steps, they heard screeches. Two larger crypt demons appeared in front of them. These two crypt demons were more than 5 meters long. Their limbs were also stronger. The three wanted to run in another direction, but another crypt demon appeared from another direction, and 3 more crypt demons appeared. The three were in complete despair. They couldn't even hold their guns steadily. They looked at the monsters in fear. Bang, bang, bang. The three of them fired without a care in the world. But when the bullets hit the crypt demons, sparks flew everywhere. The bullets bounced off randomly, but the crypt demon remained unharmed. It was not until they ran out of bullets that the gunshots stopped. A crypt demon pounced forward and pinned one of them to the ground. Then, a bloody scene appeared in front of the remaining 2 people. They watched as their companion was bitten into a bloody mess by the huge crypt demon. At this moment, they naturally regretted their ignorance and recklessness. But it was too late. Qin Zhao had been standing behind the 2. "What do you think? Do you still need me to be the bait? You go." Saint Sylt pointed his gun at him again. Even though the gun in his hand was out of bullets, he still refused to give up. It was as if the gun could bring him a sense of security. Ying, suddenly he realized that there was a black shadow behind Qin Zhao. Saint Ski tilted his head and looked behind Qin Zhao. He realized that there was also a crypt demon standing behind Qin Zhao. Shensk was so frightened that he fell to the ground. His pants were already wet. Your back, my back? You mean him? I think he's called Zhao. I gave him that name. What do you think?" The crypt demon stood beside Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao patted its shoulder. The crypt demon was about 1.5 meters tall when standing and almost 5 meters long. It was a male crypt demon with 95% exoskeleton. At the same time, it was the crypt demon queen's guard. Because Qin Zhao had come and gone a few times, he even gave it a name. Of course, it wasn't just him. The crypt demon queen's guards also had names. They were Zhao Qian, Sun Li, Zhou Wu, and Wang Zheng. You, Saint Sylt, and the other persons stared at Qin Zhao in fear. Qin Zhao had a faint smile. He was happy to see the crypt demons eat them. Compared to them, he liked them more, other than their appetites and menu. Qin Zhao also liked the crypt demons. After the initial conflict, the crypt demons weren't that cruel. Perhaps because they weren't a big group, they didn't have deep-rooted bad habits like humans. Just then, the old crypt demon appeared. Ignoring the 2, Qin Zhao turned to face the old crypt demon. "Hey, old man, hello. Human, hello. Who are these 2 humans?" "Unimportant people. You can do whatever you want." The old crypt demon looked at the 2. "Do whatever I want?" "Yes." Qin Zhao wasn't a clean freak. He still insisted that they couldn't kill people. The old crypt demon didn't give the order to kill the 2. Nissan species need to be raised. Do they need to be raised specially? It's mainly because the 2 Nissan species you brought are cubs. They don't have the ability to protect themselves, so they need special care, but we aren't suited to take care of Nissan cubs, the old crypt demon said. "Okay," Qin Zhao said. "Oh, I need to go deep into the cave." "We'll bring you in, but my people and I can't send you to the deepest part. After a certain depth, it'll be very dangerous for us too." "Of course. You just need to bring me to the entrance. Then I'll go deeper myself." The 2 behind him stood there, trembling. After a while, Qin Zhao walked up to them with a smile. "You're very lucky. They're letting us go." "No, they don't want to eat you immediately. They want to eat cooked food so you won't die for now." The 2 were so scared that they almost fainted. "Oh, there's another option. At least you won't die in the short term. Are you willing to accept it?" "What option?" "Work for them. If you perform well, maybe I'll help you." "Okay, we're willing to work for them." The crypt demon nudged the 2 and had them follow. The 2 followed Qin Zhao into the depths of the crypt demon ruins. They discovered that there were even more crypt demons here. However, the absolute darkness that followed completely submerged them in fear. Chen Zhao didn't care about their fates. The old crypt demon and the other crypt demons brought Chen Zhao in another direction. It was a crack in the depths of the cave. It led to an even deeper place. A strong crypt demon jumped into the crack first. Chen Zhao also jumped in. After climbing and falling a few times, Chen Zhao and the crypt demon arrived at the bottom of the crack. The temperature here was already higher than above. It was probably over 60 degrees. Chapter 1188. There was no light here, but darkness didn't affect Chen Zhao. The surrounding rock walls were brownish-red with some black substance. This was already 2,000 meters underground. But this wasn't enough. 2,000 meters was only the Earth's crust. The thickness of the crust was about 33 kilometers. Until now, human technology still couldn't penetrate deep into the crust. Chen Zhao realized that the temperature here was higher than expected. Chen Zhao started to walk through the cracks. The width of the cracks wasn't fixed. Some places were very narrow. Chen Zhao had to use violent methods to widen the cracks. Chen Zhao's incomplete little world provided him with sufficient magic power. The environment here and the test for living beings were more severe than he'd imagined. If Chen Zhao had come here before he understood chaotic emptiness, he would either have to turn back or die here in half an hour. Chen Zhao felt like he was going through a huge battle with every minute he walked. His mana was used up like a tide. However, the golden key in Chen Zhao's body was also changing. Chen Zhao didn't feel so uncomfortable anymore. At least the high temperature here wasn't the biggest problem. The small world was maintaining Chen Zhao's mana consumption. It actually lightened his burden. Right now, Chen Zhao was in his best condition. The incomplete, small world gave Chen Zhao a huge source of mana, but it also put a burden on him. And now, Chen Zhao's crazy mana consumption was also helping him relieve stress. It was as if he had been carrying 50 tons of weight, and now the weight had been reduced to 40 tons. Of course, carrying a heavy load had its disadvantages, but there were also advantages. Chen Zhao's mass had increased. When Chen Zhao fought large or super large monsters, there was always a disadvantage. Even though Chen Zhao was stronger than his opponent, his weight would still cause him to be sent flying when he had no foothold to hold onto. It was like if Chen Zhao fell from the sky, the impact would be very limited. Because Chen Zhao's weight was like a raindrop falling from the clouds. If raindrops could accelerate infinitely, then a raindrop could kill a person. In reality, raindrops couldn't because they were too small. However, if it was a massive object, such as a hailstone, then it could really kill people. This was the impact brought about by mass. It was the same for Chen Zhao now. He could charge around like a monster. There was no need for any fancy moves or attacks, just a direct impact to destroy the enemy. Suddenly, Chen Zhao paused. The edge of the small world seemed to feel a force rushing over from the front. Chen Zhao immediately used the Qingyi armor to protect himself. The next moment, a violent wave of heat rushed toward Chen Zhao. It was water vapor with a temperature of hundreds of degrees Celsius. And the water vapor brought by the geothermal heat also brought about an impact in such a narrow space. Even Chen Zhao couldn't resist it. He was smashed into the wall by the steam. Whoosh! Chen Zhao shook his head. The impact was too great. This was the power of nature, completely beyond human understanding. However, this also alerted Chen Zhao. Perhaps the current him was already standing at the top of the food chain in the human world. But compared to nature, he was nothing. He was now facing the most terrifying side of nature. Therefore, he would be even more humble. Chen Zhao continued forward. There was no fork in the road that he had imagined. This surprised Chen Zhao a bit, but it was understandable. Some land plates weren't stable, so it was normal for there to be small changes in the geological structure. Of course, the land plates here weren't continental plates. Continental plates were usually between 50 to 250 kilometers thick. Right now, Chunjiao was only on the surface of the American continent, but the surface plates would still move. Chunjiao walked for another half an hour, and suddenly light appeared before him. It wasn't strong, but Chunjiao still saw azure light. Chunjiao walked forward quickly. He couldn't believe his eyes. This was a super huge cave in a lake. The top of the cave was covered in a layer of faint blue fluorescence. The fluorescence reflected on the surface of the lake, making it look like a sapphire. According to Chunjiao's estimation, the visible area of this lake was at least dozens of times larger than Mirror Lake. The surrounding temperature wasn't very high either. The water must have lowered the temperature. Chunjiao thought again and felt that it wasn't right. Although this underground lake was huge. Under this kind of environment, after thousands of years of baking, the temperature of the water should have become very high. Chunjiao had already come to the side of the lake. He tested the water temperature. It was actually room temperature. If this was a hot spring, Chunjiao could accept it, but the water temperature was only a dozen degrees. It was too low. Unless there was another water source that kept pouring water here and then the water flowed to other places. That way, the water could be kept at room temperature. Suddenly, a tentacle shot out of the lake and wrapped around Chunjiao's ankle. Chunjiao pulled with his foot and pulled the tentacle out of the water. It was a strange-looking giant octopus. Its body glowed with fluorescence. The next moment, the fluorescence on the giant octopus became dazzling. Then Chunjiao felt a strong electric current surge into his body. However, the current was very average, and it didn't threaten him at all. The strong current from the octopus actually replenished his magic power. Chunjiao tore off the octopus's tentacle. Large amounts of milky white liquid splashed out from the glowing octopus's broken limb. This is diluted earth essence? This giant octopus actually has earth essence? Chunjiao immediately grew excited. He started absorbing the earth essence from the octopus. Soon, the earth essence in the glowing octopus was drained dry. The octopus also lost its life. Chunjiao tossed the octopus back into the lake. However, at that moment, a huge mouth appeared in the water and bit off half of the fluorescent octopus's body. Chunjiao looked at the surface of the lake. An eye was also staring at him under the water. It was a water gull, a very large one. Water gull were special creatures because they were actually the larvae of dragonflies. But actually, when they grew into dragonflies, they were already in their old age. Humans were more familiar with beautiful dragonflies. They hated ugly water gull. This water gull seemed to see Chunjiao as prey. Chapter 1189. What kind of situation was the most satisfying? For example, revenge. It was a choice made by the emotions produced by dopamine. The other type was killing without any psychological burden. For example, Chunjiao right now. Chunjiao was crazily killing the monsters in the underground lake. It was a killing that liberated one's nature and allowed oneself to fly. Chunjiao didn't feel any psychological burden when killing. He didn't feel any compassion when killing other small animals either. Chunjiao's killing was completely random. The ecosystem here was completely different from that on the surface, as well as biological characteristics that were completely different from those on the surface. One of the characteristics was big. Chunjiao killed dozens of giant creatures, but they were all filled with white liquid, which was the diluted essence of the earth. There wasn't a single monster like the big spider or a single golden substance. The dozens of giant creatures Chunjiao killed weren't even as pure as the earth essence provided by the big spider. Chunjiao stopped killing. He flipped around in the lake to check. There were no stronger creatures in the lake. Unless Chunjiao killed all the creatures in the underground lake, he wouldn't be able to gather a portion of the golden substance. Other than the monsters, the underground lake was actually not bad. If a normal tourist could come here, it would definitely be an extraordinary experience. Of course, that wouldn't happen. Other than Chunjiao, Probably only Gaia had the ability to come here. The others wouldn't be able to come here at all. Chen Zhao also found an underground river on the other side of the lake. So, Chen Zhao planned to go in and check. He wanted to see if he could go deeper underground. Not long after entering the river, Chen Zhao arrived at an underground waterfall. The 30-meter drop was nothing to Chen Zhao, but below the waterfall was the magma lake. When the water fell above the magma lake, it evaporated before it even reached the bottom. Then it formed water vapor. The water vapor Chen Zhao had encountered before should have been formed here. Chen Zhao stood above the waterfall and looked down at the magma lake. The temperature below was very high. The water from the waterfall couldn't evaporate before it hit the ground. One could imagine how high the temperature here was. Even Chen Zhao would probably be cooked in a minute if he fell into the magma lake. The temperature here was completely different from Skyfire territory. Although the temperature of the heavenly fire domain was high, the heavenly fire could be absorbed, but the lava here would burn him to death. Chen Zhao's dark serum could assimilate with magma, but that was when there was more darkness, original fluid, and less lava. But how much energy was contained in the huge magma lake below? If the dark origin fluid seeped into the magma, it wouldn't be the dark origin fluid assimilating the magma, but the magma assimilating the dark origin fluid. Just then, Chen Zhao saw a figure swimming in the lava. The figure was more than 10 meters long. In terms of body length or shape, it wasn't very big. Even from a few hundred meters away, Chen Zhao could still feel the creature's aura. This creature looked like the legendary plesiosaur. However, plesiosaurs lived in water, not magma. Chen Zhao silently assessed the strength of the plesiosaur-like creature. This snake-necked dragon's aura was even more powerful than the great arachne. That meant that it had high-purity earth essence in its body. Suddenly, the plesiosaur lifted its long neck from the magma and spat out a mouthful of lava. Chen Zhao dodged the lava, so the creature had discovered him. Plus, it was really irritable. It actually attacked Chen Zhao first, but thinking about it, it made sense. All the creatures he encountered underground would attack him first. The underground world was a dog-eat-dog world, but it wasn't easy for Chen Zhao to kill the creature. It swam in the magma, but Chen Zhao couldn't resist it. What should he do? Chen Zhao thought about it and suddenly thought of an idea. He could widen the underground river and direct more lake water here to extinguish the magma lake. Of course, it was impossible to extinguish it forever. After all, there had to be a connection to such a large magma lake. But it was still possible for a short time. After all, the underground lake was very large, and the only outlet was this underground river. As long as a large amount of water from the underground lake was poured here, the temperature here could be lowered in a very short period of time. Chen Zhao turned back along the underground river. At the entrance, he used brute force to completely destroy the entrance. Chen Zhao used the dark magma like a tunnel puncher. It spun wildly and cut open the cave in the underground river. Instantly, even more lake water surged into the underground river. But the underground lake was very large. Even after expanding the underground river, the water level didn't drop significantly. Chen Zhao returned to the waterfall and watched the large amount of water rush into the magma lake. It formed a large amount of steam and mist, covering the entire sky above the magma lake. Sizzling sounds could be heard everywhere. Soon, the lake water started occupying the magma lake. Chen Zhao waited for half an hour. Water was already accumulating below, but the water below was all boiling. It was just boiling water, so Chen Zhao jumped in. The current temperature was within Chen Zhao's acceptable range. Just then, a plesiosaur suddenly emerged from the mist and pounced at Chen Zhao. It's still alive? Chen Zhao was surprised. He'd thought that the plesiosaur was used to the temperature of the magma and wouldn't be able to survive in water. However, the result was unexpected. The plesiosaur monster was still alive and kicking. Chen Zhao's all-out attack crushed the plesiosaur's head. As expected, he found a golden substance in the plesiosaur's corpse. Chen Zhao couldn't help but absorb it. After it was absorbed, it fused into Chen Zhao's lower dantian. The golden substance was the high-purity essence of the earth. Not only was the essence of the earth the main ingredient for cultivating primordial emptiness, but it could also strengthen one's body. Actually, Old Turtle had told him so much about primordial emptiness. Basically, it was core formation. Just as Chen Zhao was about to condense the earth essence, an even bigger plesiosaur appeared and bit at him. Chen Zhao was shocked. "There's another one?" "No. There's another one. Chen Zhao realized that the entire magma lake was the plesiosaur's nest. There were countless plesiosaurs here. After Chen Zhao purposely destroyed the environment, all the plesiosaurs came out. They seemed to be very used to the steamy environment. Chen Zhao couldn't help but suspect that this wasn't the first time lake water poured into the magma lake. It might be a cycle, so the plesiosaurs could completely adapt to this environment. Chapter 1190. Chen Zhao looked at the plesiosaurs. There was no pity or sympathy here. If Chen Zhao didn't kill them, they would kill Chen Zhao. This was the most primitive world with the most primitive rules. Every time Chen Zhao killed a plesiosaur and absorbed the earth essence from its body, his body would become stronger. When the earth essence in his body reached a certain level, it would condense into an elixir. Chen Zhao didn't need to condense it. The earth essence would condense itself. The elixir was already formed, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't solid enough. The elixir was still in a liquid state. It needed a large amount of earth essence to condense. After killing so many plesiosaurs, Chen Zhao attracted more underground creatures. There were strong and weak ones. The weaker subterranean creatures were the bigger rats. They didn't dare to attack Chen Zhao, but they fought for food with him. They tore at the plesiosaur corpses in groups. Chen Zhao didn't have time to deal with these rats. Just then, the rats suddenly stopped eating. Their gazes were all focused on the steam. Chen Zhao's pupils constricted. Something was coming. Suddenly, Chen Zhao felt danger. Chen Zhao immediately activated Qingyi Cloud and blocked the dark lava in front of him. But the dark lava was pierced first. A wave of power attacked him with an unstoppable momentum. Chen Zhao was sent flying hundreds of meters away. Pain. That was Chen Zhao's feeling. Qingyi Cloud was broken instantly. If he wasn't strong enough, this attack would be enough to kill him. Chen Zhao looked into the mist. He could vaguely see a red ball. Its entire body was burning. Chen Zhao released all the electricity stored in the eye of the lightning. Terrifying electricity spread in the mist. The entire space was filled with electricity, making crackling sounds. The creature's strange cry came from the mist too. It seemed to work. That thing couldn't withstand electricity. Chen Zhao charged through the mist toward the ball of fire. When Chen Zhao saw it clearly, he was still shocked. It was a huge bird that was burning with flames. This was not a large bird whose body had been set on fire, but rather it was a flame. A thought popped up in Chen Zhao's mind. Phoenix. Flames formed every inch of its body. This was a true immortal bird. The phoenix flapped its flaming wings, and the surrounding steam was blown away. By then, Chen Zhao was already in front of him. Chen Zhao couldn't care less about how hot the phoenix was. In any case, it was just a punch that landed on the undying bird. The immortal bird was sent flying. Chen Zhao approached it again. Another punch landed on the undying bird. The undying bird pecked at Chen Zhao with its beak. The immortal bird's blood landed on Chen Zhao. He felt a bone-piercing pain. If this were to continue, even if he managed to kill the undying bird, he would still be burned to death. Chen Zhao didn't want to continue. He took out the zither and the 12 stone swords. 12 stone swords slashed at the phoenix. The phoenix cried out loudly. The stone sword had caused great damage to it. The undying bird seemed to have realized that it was about to die. Its body suddenly began to shrink, and as its body shrank, its temperature increased. Legend has it that the immortal bird had the ability to rise from the ashes, which was the legendary nirvana. Qin Zhao wouldn't let it go through nirvana, but its body had already shrunk by half. The temperature had increased several times. Even though he was more than 10 meters away, Chen Zhao could not withstand the heat. The stone swords even melted. Even the stone swords couldn't withstand the scorching heat. The undying bird shrank even more. It couldn't continue like this. Chen Zhao released all the dark lava and wrapped it around the undying bird. At this moment, the dark magma began to boil like boiling water. Chen Zhao didn't know that dark lava had a boiling point, but he couldn't back down now. Under Chen Zhao's control, the dark lava pierced inwards and shot through the undying bird's body. The undying bird's nirvana finally stopped. Its body stopped too. Monsters no longer attacked Chen Zhao. In fact, as soon as the undying bird appeared, all the other monsters had fled. Chen Zhao walked toward the undying bird's body. The undying bird wasn't as hot as before. Its body was as calm as a normal creature. Chen Zhao realized that the undying bird's blood was merging with the dark lava. Chen Zhao was more concerned about whether there was gold in the undying bird's body. But when Chen Zhao pried open the undying bird's body, he found a golden bead. Was this the pure essence of the earth? No, this was already an internal alchemy, right? Had he killed an undying bird that had reached the emptiness realm? That wasn't right either. It should be like him, only half complete. Chen Zhao had comprehended the emptiness realm, while it had comprehended the emptiness realm. Chen Zhao started absorbing the earth essence. At that moment, Chen Zhao felt that his blood was boiling. Chen Zhao forcefully suppressed the burning sensation. Meanwhile, the internal alchemy in his lower dantian started solidifying and turning gold. Furthermore, there was a pattern of an immortal bird on the inner core. Chen Zhao felt the changes in his body. At that moment, all the weight disappeared. The emptiness realm was finally complete. The heavenly patterns in the small world seemed to have been ignited. All the patterns were covered in red flames. The small world was around 50 meters in diameter and shaped like a hemisphere. At the moment, it looked like a burning tree. Withdraw! Chen Zhao's heart jumped. The flames immediately disappeared and returned to his body. Chen Zhao's consciousness moved again. A ball of fire exploded in a certain spot in the small world. It felt so good to control the world. However, that was only within the small world. Chen Zhao couldn't do anything beyond that. His body lightened and he floated up. Chen Zhao could feel that there were more terrifying existences in the direction where the undying bird had appeared. But he didn't plan on going deeper. It was already so dangerous. If he went deeper, he would only die a worse death. So he decided to leave. Chen Zhao easily returned to the waterfall and followed the underground river back to the underground lake. Just then he had another idea. Since there were other sources of water in the underground lake, they were probably above ground. Could he go back to the surface from the water entrance? Soon, Chen Zhao found the water inlet. He followed it and swam upstream. The current was rapid, but it wasn't a threat to Chen Zhao. Finally, Chen Zhao felt the exit of the undercurrent. Chen Zhao pushed up and finally floated to the surface. But why did the surroundings feel so familiar? Chen Zhao looked left and right. Chapter 1191. Chen Zhao didn't even dream about it. After going around, he was back home. There was a tunnel that led deep underground in front of his house. Chen Zhao rose into the air, but he realized that he was still limited by height. When he was above 100 meters, the weight came again. It was like some force was trying to pull him back to the ground. Even though he understood the emptiness of the world, he still couldn't fly freely in the sky. It seemed that he still had a long way to go before he could truly fly in the sky and burrow underground. Chen Zhao was somewhat disappointed. Fei Lai went to the balcony of her bedroom and saw a figure flying in the darkness. She was too familiar with that figure. Chen Zhao? Was that her man? Feilai was filled with shock. Chen Zhao finally noticed Feilai's gaze. He flew from the sky above the lake to the balcony. He hovered outside the balcony, holding a golden feather in his hand. Feilai, this is for you. Chen, this is? Phoenix's feather. Feilai's eyes were moist. She took the golden feather lovingly. Chen, you can fly? I just learned. Chen Zhao pulled Feilai's hand and carried her like a princess. Then he flew slowly above the lake. Chen, you're Superman, right? I'm willing to be your Superman. Just then, the morning glow rose from the distant sea. Feilai had never seen such a beautiful morning glow before. It was an enchanting scene, a beautiful scene that made people linger on and forget to leave. Flying was a very special experience. Chen Zhao had done something that humans could only dream of. He could fly into the sky without using any tools, although he couldn't completely break free from gravity. However, Chen Zhao believed that one day he would definitely be able to do that. He could also do it. He could break through the speed that he couldn't on the ground by flying. He could even reach the sound barrier. But flying in the sky was even more tiring. It was very tiring. In the past, without the small world, Chen Zhao might not even be able to fly for 10 minutes with his magic power. But now, even with the small world, he still couldn't fly for long. 1 hour was the most he could do. To put it simply, flying consumed much more magic power than Chen Zhao's magic recovery. With the small world, Chen Zhao's magic source had expanded more than 10 times. But this didn't mean that he had endless magic power. Chen Zhao put Feilai on the stone ball in the middle of the lake. Chen Zhao's magic power started seeping into the stone ball. The stone ball was Old Turtle's inner elixir. In principle, Chen Zhao could absorb Old Turtle's internal elixir too. But the level difference between Chen Zhao and Old Turtle was too big. In fact, Mirror Lake itself was a small world. Old Turtle's inner elixir had created a small world of its own. Just thinking about the area of the small world of more than 10 square kilometers, one could imagine how huge this small world was. Chen Zhao and Old Turtle's relationship aside, in terms of ability alone, he couldn't take Old Turtle's internal alchemy and turn it into his own small world. The difference between Chen Zhao's little world and Old Turtle's was like comparing a watermelon to a sesame seed. Plus, this was only 1/10,000th of Old Turtle's power. After breakfast, Chen Zhao entered the river map. Hey, you're really fast. It should have only been less than a day outside, right? You've actually completed chaotic emptiness. Old Turtle looked at him in surprise. Old Turtle, this roast chicken is for you. Chen Zhao tossed a mortal bird's body before Old Turtle. Is this a phoenix in China? What kind of phoenix is this? If you meet a phoenix, and the phoenix is hostile to you, it can probably make you evaporate from the world with just a glance. This thing is at most a strange beast. Phoenix is a divine beast, a spirit of heaven and earth. There are 5 main types. Red is the phoenix, cyan is the luan, purple is the tau, yellow is the tau, and white is the swan. Old Turtle said, phoenixes only live on the parasol tree and never land in the sky. Once they land, the seas will boil and the 9 hells will roll. Think about the difference between the phoenix you mentioned and this thing. Old Turtle lifted a mortal bird's body. But this thing has some phoenix blood. I don't need it. Mix it with rootless water and make soup for your wife. It'll nourish your wife and protect the fetus. The child will be very healthy in the future. Old Turtle, my bronze and stone swords were both destroyed when I fought this strange bird. Help me make a few more stone swords. I don't know how to refine weapons. What I can refine is the most ordinary molding, just like those stone swords from before. They are made by melting the stone at high temperatures. With your current strength, if you meet an opponent weaker than you, you won't be able to use it at all. However, if you meet an opponent of the same strength as you, the stone swords are basically useless. Then what should I do? If I don't have a suitable weapon, I'll always feel empty. Think of a way yourself. I'm not Doryman. Chen Zhao was chased out of the river map by Old Turtle. After some thought, Chen Zhao decided to call West. Chen Zhao called West. West, you said that the association wanted to recruit an alchemist. Did you get any results? West was surprised that Chen Zhao would bring this up. President, not yet. Then do you have any intentions? For example, someone you like? A few. I sent invitations on behalf of the association, but I haven't heard back. Who are they? Chen Zhao asked. Holland's alchemist Punk, Japan's famous swordsmith Higashino Tenki, and South Africa's famous five-venom sects Elder Wago. All three of them have very good alchemy skills. At the same time, in terms of personal integrity, they meet the requirements of our association, West said. Are there any other Japanese? Of course. West knew that the Chinese and the Japanese had a feud. So when he mentioned the Japanese swordsmith Higashino Tenchi, he only mentioned him briefly. Chen Zhao also had this concern. Recruiting a Japanese might not be a pleasant experience. Does this Japanese specialize in forging swords? He's proficient in forging all kinds of weapons, and he's also good at making magical tools. Most of the weapons our members use now are made by Padalu and Jalig, and they're only good at mechanical weapons. They're very unfamiliar with magical weapons. For example, Gaia's weapons are custom-made. Not only are they expensive, but Gaia also took a long time to get used to their flaming greatsword. If this Japanese bladesmith is willing to join our association, we can have him custom-make a set of weapons and equipment for everyone. Chapter 1192. The Dutch alchemist Punk. He's best at making all kinds of magic potions. The South African voodoo master, Vago, is actually a witch doctor. He's the leader of his tribe. He treats people in his tribe and makes voodoo antidotes. He's also the one who rejected our invitation the most. From West's explanation, Chen Zhao roughly understood one thing. All three of them had their own specialties, but they weren't comprehensive enough. All three were things that the association needed. If there was someone who could be good at everything the three were good at, he'd be the perfect alchemist. But clearly, with the association's current fame and authority, it wasn't that attractive. What the association could do now was attract other spiritualists with benefits and benefits. Did they make any requests? Chen Zhao asked. Punk asked for unlimited research funds, and we can't force him to work. Fuck, we're not looking for a grandfather to worship. We can't just cut off all ties with him. Chen Zhao disliked arrogant people the most. Perhaps this Punk was very capable, but Chen Zhao wouldn't ask for help. West had come to beg Chen Zhao. What was the supernatural organization like then? They couldn't even deal with the evil spirit group in Maple Leaf Community. The association was also in chaos internally, and there was also a big worm that Chen Zhao had already cut into pieces. But what was it like now? The people in the supernatural organization had built up their confidence and pride. Maybe they weren't perfect yet, but they could say no to anyone. The supernatural organization was willing to recruit more capable spiritualists, but they definitely wouldn't be begging humbly. The most direct manifestation was the difference in power. If another haunted community like Maple Leaf Community appeared, 5 people in the association could deal with it alone, or 3 or 4 people working together could deal with it. There wouldn't be a situation where a haunted community couldn't be dealt with in a few years. Moreover, their power was still growing. In the past, Jolanash was the strongest. Her pride couldn't match her power at all. But now, Jolanash wasn't as proud as before. She knew that many people in the world were better and stronger than her. Even in the association, many people could defeat her. West could also bravely say no to the Anti-Terrorism Association and negotiate with them with a tough attitude. Where are the other 2? Chen Zhao asked. That Japanese man, Donya Tenchi, he asked us to help him subdue a ghost king. What ghost king? Shall we go to Japan? No, that ghost king was sealed in his family's demon knife, and that demon knife was lost when he came to America. Apart from this, are there any other requirements? No, Wes said. Are there any clues about the whereabouts of the demon blade? In the past month, 4 people in the Los Angeles area have been injured by sharp weapons. One of them died, and according to the investigation, all the blood in the dead person's body was sucked dry. We suspect it has something to do with the sword. Regarding this matter, the association will continue to investigate. After all, even if this matter was not entrusted to us, it is still within the scope of our duties. Also, what is Donya Tianqi's personality like? He's very similar to the Japanese I know, humble and proud. What about the last witch doctor, Vago from Africa? Did he propose any conditions? Yes, but it's basically impossible for us to do it. What condition? Protect his tribe and help them escape poverty and war. In that case, only the Japanese still has a chance, right? Actually, there's a list, but they're either too weak or have no chance at all. They've already pledged their loyalty to other forces. Make an appointment with the Japanese, Chen Zhao said. Okay. Chen Zhao wanted to see if the Japanese could get along with him. If they could, then he would recruit him. If not, then he would give up on the idea. Due to well-known reasons, the relationship between China and Japan had always been very complicated. Chen Zhao wanted a subordinate, not someone who would cause trouble for him. Therefore, Chen Zhao had to make sure that the Japanese did not have any conflicts of principle with him. If Donya Tianqi was a pervert, Chen Zhao would probably kill him on the spot. Chen Zhao went to the headquarters of the association in the afternoon. When he arrived, he saw a few unfamiliar cars parked in the parking lot. When he entered the hall, he saw a few uninvited guests. Chen Zhao's expression changed instantly. It was not just anyone, but people from the Magic Palace. At the front were Rococo and Baisa. The other 3 were Arthur and the other 2 guardian knights. To Chen Zhao's surprise, the last one was Bolton, a police officer from San Diego. It's you guys? Chen Zhao's expression darkened. He was ready to attack. Hi, Mr. Chen, we meet again. Rococo smiled at Chen Zhao. Are you here to die? Chen Zhao asked with a dark expression. Mr. Chen, don't attack first. We're here to resolve the misunderstanding, Baisa said. I don't think there's any misunderstanding. You attacked me. President, I think there's indeed a misunderstanding between you two. West volunteered to be the peacemaker. They attacked me first. Mr. Chen, we're here to apologize to you, Baisa said. Baisa said we know. We originally thought that Mr. Chen deliberately created the 1,000 Faces demon spirit, so he created that massacre. Chen Zhao's expression was still dark. He stared coldly at the people before him. The truth proves that we were wrong. Misha had already learned from West the reason why Chen Zhao had massacred them back then. She could not accept Chen Zhao's bloody methods. But at least Chen Zhao was not the crazy and evil wizard she thought him to be. To be honest, Chen Zhao was not as angry as that day. His anger was a momentary impulse. Chen Zhao did not have any deep grudges against them. Chen Zhao did not want to kill them anymore. However, it was still impossible for him to resolve the conflict with them. Mr. Chen, no matter whether you forgive us or not, please accept our apologies. Also, we're here to cooperate with the supernatural organization. Cooperate with what? I don't think we have to. It's about Rupert, the demon spirit in her. Is there a problem? Chapter 1193. Chen Zhao didn't like Rupert, but that didn't mean he would give her to someone else. In particular, he disliked her even more. He'd even had some conflicts with them before. Why? Chen Zhao crossed his legs and sat on the main seat. Crossing his arms, he looked at the people in the Magic Palace. Mr. Chen, maybe you don't understand the severity of the situation, Bamiza said. There's a demon soul in Rupert's body. It's the demon Kansmosa. And then, haven't you heard of this name? The people in the Magic Palace were disappointed by Chen Zhao's calm reaction. They'd thought that Chen Zhao would be shocked and in disbelief. Just then, West whispered into Chun Zhao's ear. This name comes from a famous demon from the Middle Ages. A demon from the Middle Ages? Including the 20 years she'd been asleep, Rupert was only 27 or 28 years old. She'd only been sealed for 20 years. How did a demon from the Middle Ages appear? Chun Zhao thought that it was a demon that had only appeared recently. It's said that Kansmosa was a subordinate of the King of Magic, Bamiza said. Not only did he have unparalleled magical power, but he also had an evil army. He once turned into a duke in the Roman Empire and used his power to recruit troops. Then he used his evil magic to transform the army into a demon army and challenged the Vatican. In the end, the Vatican destroyed the demon and sealed his body and soul separately. His subordinates have been hiding in the darkness, waiting for Kansmosa to wake up from the seal and lead the demon army again. Get to the point. Not long ago, we discovered that Sibylla is a believer of the demon doctrine. She's been plotting to resurrect Kansmosa. Chun Zhao looked at Rococo. I remember she's your daughter, right? That day in the underground parking lot. Chun Zhao had heard their conversation while hiding in the darkness. He also knew that Sibylla was Rococo's daughter. That's right. Don't you know what your daughter believes in? I can't help but suspect that you're the one who guided her to believe in the demon doctrine. She is indeed my daughter, but she has never lived with me before, and the person who discovered her faith was also me. Luo Coco said indifferently. Mr. Chin, 20 years ago, Sibylla found the place where Kong Mosa's soul was sealed. Then, she deceived the other witches and released Kong Mosa's soul. However, she overestimated the strength of Kong Mosa's soul. After being sealed for 1,000 years, Kong Mosa was extremely weak, and he was only in his soul form. In the end, he was defeated by the other witches. Sibylla then proposed to seal Kong Mosa's soul. Using the magic she learned from the East, she divided Kong Mosa's soul into 3 parts and sealed them in Rupert and her 2 students. Then what do you want Rupert to do? Destroy 1/3 of Kong Mosa's soul. As long as 1/3 of Kong Mosa's soul is destroyed, even if Kong Mosa is resurrected in the future, he will still be an incomplete soul. At that time, the threat will be far less than a fully resurrected Kong Mosa, and we will have more confidence in destroying him. Speak the truth, Chen Zhao said, looking at the people of the Magic Palace. Mr. Chen, in order to achieve righteousness, sacrifice is needed. Rupert's mother was one of the witches who fought with Kong Mosa's soul. She was also tricked by Sibylla, so she accepted Sibylla's suggestion and sealed 1/3 of the demon's soul in her daughter's body. She also needs to take responsibility for her mistakes, Baisa said. Oh, are you done? Mr. Chin, what's your answer? I won't keep you for dinner, Chin Zhao said. You can leave now. Mr. Chin, do you know what you're saying? I do. A group of enemies came to my house and asked for people. Can I understand that? Chen Zhao's eyes were like torches. He looked coldly at the people of the Magic Palace and turned to West. West, my temper seems to be much better. I'm surprised I didn't attack them on the spot. Yes, President, your temper is indeed much better. To be honest, West would not be surprised if Chen Zhao attacked. But if some random person comes here again, don't be polite, Chen Zhao said. But don't be so polite. Mr. Chin, you're making a very stupid decision. This is my territory. Old woman, you'd better take care of yourself. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to control my temper. Since they weren't friends, Chen Zhao did not need to pretend to be polite. Let's go. Baisa left with a pale face. She and Rococo had already lowered their statuses and came to negotiate with him with good intentions. But Chen Zhao had rejected them. It was easy to imagine how Baisa felt. Guild leader, will our Sin Magic Temple really be fine? West asked worriedly. What, you think we're weaker than them? The Magic Palace is the headquarters of thousands of witches in Europe. Those 2 are great witches. What great witches? That's a respectful title for them. You can also call them leader witches. Then they're the strongest witches in Europe, right? In terms of individual power, they're indeed the strongest. I don't think they're that strong, Chen Zhao said disapprovingly. Chen Zhao did not deny that they were strong, but they'd lost to him in the end, so he could not think highly of them. If the strongest witches in Europe were only at this level, then Chen Zhao would be really disappointed. But they represent the Magic Palace. It's the largest magic organization in the world. So what if they're strong? We're separated by the Atlantic Ocean. Do you think they can call thousands of witches to come here and settle the score with us? Chen Zhao looked at the corner. Rupert, come out. Rupert pursed her lips and walked out from the corner. Did you hear what they said just now? Yes. Tell me why you're with Sibylla. Sibylla said that she has a way to pull the demon's soul out of my body without harming me. What about now? Clearly, Sibylla lied to me. In fact, I'd sensed it before. Then why are you with them? Chapter 1194. Then your original goal probably wasn't to cooperate with Sibylla, right? Rupert was playing with her fingers. Chen Zhao could tell that Rupert didn't want to talk. Chen Zhao didn't force her either. Whatever. You can tell me whenever you want. Sibylla controls Kong Mosa's demon army, Rupert said. Chen Zhao froze. If that's the case, why does she want to resurrect Kong Mosa? Isn't it better for her to control Kong Mosa's demon army? She's only a temporary commander. There are also people who oppose her in the army. They think that she's only a human. If she wants to continue controlling the army, she has to work hard for Kong Mosa's resurrection. If she continues to summon the army for her own sake, the army will tear her apart. How many demons are there in the army? Thousands of converted demons and 4 demon commanders, Rupert said. How do you know so much? Rupert pointed at her head. He told me. Are you sure he's telling the truth? After all, he's sealed in my body. You can say that my soul and his have merged into one. He can't lie to me. So if Sibylla wants to resurrect Kong Mosa, she'll pull your soul out too? She said that she has a way to separate me from the demon's soul. Does she really have a way? Chen Zhao asked. I've never thought about that, Rupert said. I have my own plan. What plan? 1/3 of the demon's soul is sealed in me, Mahage, and Fei Sha's bodies. It can be said that the 3 of us have some kind of connection. But if the 2 of them die, then the demon's soul in their bodies will also be destroyed. At that time, Kong Mosa's power will be greatly weakened, and he will no longer be able to affect me. Instead, I can fuse with his soul and then completely turn it into my power. Rupert looked young, but her ambition was no less than any adult's. Chin, help me get rid of Mahage and Fei Sha. If it's you, you can definitely do it. Rupert looked at Chen Zhao expectantly. Chen Zhao glanced at Rupert indifferently, but he sneered inside. The words that this little girl had just spoken were probably far from her true feelings. He reckoned that this lass had other plans in her heart that she had yet to reveal. If he took the bait so easily, he would probably fall into her trap in the end. We'll see. I don't even know where they're hiding now. Before the 15th of this month, Sibylla will show up and attack you. Why? To snatch me back. Rupert said, because the seal on Kong Mosa's body is about to lose its effect. This is their last chance. If they can't return Kong Mosa's soul to his body before the seal is undone, then his body will go out of control. So, as long as we hide you and wait until the 15th, we'll win? Do you think it's that simple? Rupert mocked. Faith, Mahage, and I can sense each other's souls. It doesn't matter where you hide me. Sibylla knows where Kong Mosa's body is sealed. Of course, 1,000 years have passed in the sealed land. There are no secrets that can be hidden for 1,000 years without being discovered, not to mention a group of demons who are scheming to uncover secrets. Moreover, they have already obtained Kong Mosa's body. Are you saying that the seal on Kong Mosa's body has been undone? No, it's just a seal. Sibylla and the commander of the demon army got Kong Mosa's body, but they didn't undo the seal. Kong Mosa's body doesn't have a soul. Once the seal is undone, he'll go out of control. That's why they had to release his soul at the last moment so that it could return to his body. Then how did the demon army and Kong Mosa's body avoid people's attention? Chen Zhao asked curiously. If they want to take you away, then they'll have to invade our association. But they'll have to do it with great fanfare. It'll be very troublesome for 1,000 demons to get here, right? By the way, how do they get through customs? How do they buy tickets? Rupert rolled her eyes. The demon army was transformed. They were originally humans, so they have human faces. Apart from their faith, they're pretty much the same as humans. Ever since they woke up, they've been hibernating in human society. March 15th, right? If you kill Mahage and Fei Sha before that, things will be much simpler. They'll give up on the attack. Rupert still hadn't given up on persuading Chen Zhao. Didn't you say that you can sense their location? Tell me where they are now, Rupert said helplessly. Rupert said helplessly. You know what I'm saying to you now will be heard by the demon soul, and the demon soul will not allow the other parts of its soul to be destroyed. So, you can't tell me where they are now. Even if I want to help you kill them, it's useless. But I'm looking forward to the arrival of the demon army. Chin, you can't defeat a demon army. Even with the supernatural organization, you have no chance of winning. Don't underestimate anyone here, Qin Zhao said calmly. Right, West? Huh. West's laugh was very forced. This might be the most dangerous battle that Chen Zhao and the supernatural organization had ever experienced. However, Chen Zhao hoped that this battle could be a reference to test his strength. But before that, Chen Zhao still had to create his weapon. If the human world couldn't provide the weapon he needed, Chen Zhao could only go to hell. Relatively speaking, Chen Zhao could indeed get a suitable weapon from Great Lord Beelzebub Zophie or the handsome young man. But this would be very utilitarian. In the past, Chen Zhao and Beelzebub Zophie's relationship was an exchange of benefits. But after interacting for a long time, it was inevitable that their hearts would be moved. The handsome young man had been moved from the beginning. Thus, Chen Zhao wasn't willing to involve too many benefits. If he needed to find the two of them, their relationship would become complicated and not so pure. Perhaps the demons Chen Zhao knew in hell would have some sort of goal. Chapter 1195. President, you've been rubbing your palms the entire way. I have to suspect that you're actually planning to kill that Japanese. West looked at Chen Zhao's spirited expression. He was very doubtful that he'd managed to invite Dongye Tianqi. Maybe it wasn't a good decision. Should I call him now and make an appointment with Dongye Tianqi another day? Chen Zhao's idea was simple. Since it was a date, he'd talk. But if he heard anything unpleasant, he'd beat him up so badly that even his mother wouldn't recognize him. Dongye Tianqi lived in an apartment building. When Chen Zhao and West arrived at Dongye Tianqi's house, they realized that Dongye Tianqi wasn't alone. His wife and daughter were there too. The house was decorated like the families in the Japanese movies Chen Zhao had seen. There was even a painting with the word endure on the wall. Dongye Tianqi wasn't tall and he was bald. Because he was at home, he wore a kimono. Standing beside Dongye Tianqi was his wife, Riko Oikawa. Hello, Mr. West. This is the president of our association, Chin. Hello, Chin-san, are you from China? Yes. Chen Zhao didn't know Japanese. Chen Zhao didn't speak Japanese, but he knew that sen was a more formal form of address in Japanese. At the same time, it also represented intimacy. Dongye Tianqi brought Chen Zhao and West to the coffee table in the study. Riko Okinawa poured tea for them thoughtfully. It could be seen that Riko Daichi was a very virtuous woman, and she was also relatively traditional. Okinawa, you can leave first. Chin-san, this is Longjing tea from Hangzhou, China. Please have a taste. Chen Zhao took a sip and said indifferently, Mr. Dongye, have you heard of a cow chewing on a peony? Chin-san, You seem to be very hostile toward me. Since you know that I'm Chinese, then you should also know that not every Chinese like Japanese, especially some of the Japanese political concepts that are difficult to agree with. Chin-san, I understand what you mean. I can't change the thoughts of the people or the government. I can only represent myself and apologize for what the Japanese did in the past. What Chen Zhao wanted was an attitude. However, Dongya Tianqi's second sentence made Chen Zhao unhappy. Does Qin Sang use a sword? Yes, how did you know? You have sword chi on you. But I think China's double-edged sword has a big gap with the Japanese katana in terms of practicality and durability, said Higashino Tengsi. If Chun-san is interested in trying the Japanese katana, he will like the feeling of it. Chen Zhao did not know why Dongya Tianqi was telling him this, but as a Chinese he had to protect his country first. Then what makes Mr. Higashino say that? Because I'm an expert. In terms of the shape and physical lines of the sword, the Japanese sword is superior to China's double-edged sword. Since you're an expert, why are you arguing with a non-expert? Chen Zhao really wanted to retort with his actions, but he wasn't an expert. I'm also saying this based on my professionalism. If there's a possibility of cooperation in the future, I won't make inferior weapons. No matter what, Chen Zhao was very unhappy. You've said Japanese swords are durable, right? That's right. Good. Do you have your work at home? Chen Zhao asked. Of course. Can I take a look? Of course. Dongya Tianqi was clearly very confident in the weapons he'd made. He took out a Japanese sword from the cabinet on the bookshelf. The scabbard of this Japanese sword was very exquisite. It was wrapped in a wooden scabbard made of python skin, and the handle was wrapped in white silk. There was also a ribbon left over. Qin Sang, please take a look. Chen Zhao gently pulled out the scabbard. The blade hummed softly. Qin Zhao did not know if the sword was good or bad, but his intuition told him that it was indeed very sharp. Mr. Higashino, can I try the durability you mentioned? Of course. Qin Sang, go ahead. Chen Zhao's right hand was already filled with magic. His left hand held the handle. Next, Chen Zhao exerted force. Crack! The blade of the Japanese katana was broken. With a smile, Chen Zhao placed the broken katana on the coffee table. Sorry, I accidentally used too much force. Dongya Tianqi's expression immediately turned livid. His face was bright red. But I don't think Japanese swords are that durable. Of course, it's also possible that Mr. Higashino's sword isn't as good as you think. Chen Zhao directly questioned Dongya Tianqi's skills. For a swordsmith, this was the greatest humiliation. Sorry, Qin Sang, I think you've misunderstood. This sword is indeed not of high quality. Please wait a moment. The Japanese man was very proud. He would not allow others to question his skills. This was something he'd persisted in for decades. He could not let anyone question him. Dongya Tianqi stood up again and hurried out of the study. A few minutes later, Dongya Tianqi returned with a Japanese sword in both hands. I forged this sword when I was 45 years old. It's called Skyfall. Please take a look, Mr. Qin. Qin Zhao took the Japanese katana called Sky Sword. Can I continue? Of course. This sword is Mr. Higashino's best skill. It's made from ordinary materials. It's not the best sword, but it does contain my best skill. Qin Zhao held the sword in his left hand. This time, he did not use it to bend it. Instead, he chopped at his right arm. Ah! Dongya Tianqi was shocked and wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Qin Zhao had already chopped down. Clang! A corner of the blade was missing, but Qin Zhao's arm was undamaged. I'm sorry, Mr. Higashino. It seems that you're not the person our association needs. Qin Zhao stood up. A weapon that can easily break, even myself can't satisfy my needs. Qin Zhao's words were rather polite, but he had actually insulted Dongya Tianqi to the core. Qin Zhao was still very happy. He'd insulted the Japanese man. He dealt a heavy blow to Dong Tianqi's most proud profession. West could only stand up and look at Qin Zhao helplessly. His gaze seemed to be saying, "Why do you have to do this?" From beginning to end, West hadn't said anything. He could tell that Chen Zhao's stubbornness had surfaced. He also blamed Dong Tianqi for making things difficult for Qin Zhao. If he hadn't said that Chinese swords were inferior to Japanese swords, things wouldn't have gotten so unpleasant. "Wait, Qin-san, is there anything else?" "Qin-san, I hope you can give me a chance. I'll definitely make a weapon that satisfies your needs. Sorry, I don't need a Japanese sword. I want a double-edged sword from China." "Qin-san, what's wrong with a Japanese sword? Can you make a Japanese sword that won't bend? Can't China swords be bent by Qin-san?" Chapter 1196. Can I see the weapon that Qin-san used before? Qin Zhao took out the broken bronze sword directly. Dong Tianqi wasn't an ordinary blacksmith. He didn't forge ordinary weapons either, so he wasn't surprised by Chen Zhao's ability to take things out of thin air. "Qin-san, since this weapon is broken, it doesn't prove that it's better than a Japanese sword. It's broken because it's been through too many battles. West can prove how many enemies I've defeated with this sword." West glanced at Chen Zhao. He didn't know what was so special about the bronze sword, but he knew that Chen Zhao definitely didn't rely on the bronze sword to defeat so many enemies. It was all because of Chen Zhao's personal strength. Even without the bronze sword, Qin Zhao could still use another method to defeat his previous enemies. It's impossible for any weapon to be indestructible forever. Can Mr. Higashino guarantee that the blade you forged will never break? In the past, Dong Tianqi could confidently say that his sword was invincible and unbreakable. But after being defeated twice by Chen Zhao, Dong Tianqi really didn't have the courage to say that. Nevertheless, there were indeed densely packed marks on the broken bronze sword. Who knew how many dangerous battles Qin Zhao had been through? "This looks like an ancient sword." "That's right, this is an ancient sword that has been passed down since the Warring States period. It is my family's treasured sword, and it has experienced countless battles. Mr. Higashino, you can think about it. Over 2,000 years, it has experienced tens of thousands of battles, and it was only recently damaged. Do you think the weapon you forged would be more durable than this bronze sword?" Dong Tianqi sucked in a breath of cold air. He had really believed it. If it was really as Chen Zhao said, then the craftsmanship of the bronze sword had already surpassed his. Moreover, it was a sword made more than 2,000 years ago. "Qin-san, I take back my words and apologize to you." Dong Tianqi lowered his head and knelt on the ground, apologizing. Dong Tianqi was a straightforward person, but Qin Zhao wasn't ashamed of his bragging at all. Winning this battle was something to be proud of. "Qin-san, I can't make a weapon of the same craftsmanship. I'm sorry." At this moment, Higashino Tengsi was also very depressed. Initially, he wanted to use his skills to prove that Japanese swords were better than Chinese swords. In the end, Qin Zhao slapped them in the face. Moreover, they were slapped in the face by the ancient people from 2,000 years ago. "Then come and work for me. While you work for me, you can also train your skills. One day, you will be able to forge a weapon suitable for me." He had no choice. He needed weapons now. Hitting people with fists and slashing people with swords were two completely different combat experiences. What was a weapon? It was an extension of the body. The ancients had a proverb: an inch longer, an inch stronger, and an inch shorter, an inch more dangerous. Weapons gave people a sense of security, especially on the battlefield. If Chen Zhao didn't have a weapon when fighting a powerful enemy, but the enemy had a weapon, the result would be the same. Facing the opponent's attack, Chen Zhao's first reaction was to dodge, regardless of whether it could hurt him. If Chen Zhao had a weapon, he would be much more confident, because ever since Chen Zhao learned how to fight, the bronze sword had been accompanying him. Chen Zhao needed a weapon not only to increase his combat power, but also to increase his confidence and courage, especially since there was a huge battle waiting for him in the near future. Even if he had to use a crappy gun to survive, Chen Zhao had to bring Higashino Tengsi with him first. He had to deal with the upcoming battle first. As long as the Japanese didn't have a direct conflict with their bottom line, Chen Zhao could still accept it. After all, Higashino Tengsi had apologized for their past history and attitude at the beginning of their conversation. This was Chen Zhao's bottom line in the subsequent disputes. It was a conflict of ideals. Chen Zhao could accept this kind of conflict. It was like how the Chinese said that China's cooking was the best in the world, but the French didn't accept it. This kind of ideal was harmless. Which country's citizens didn't have a few things to be proud of? There was no need to go to the extent of fighting to the death with such a conflict of ideals. If you said that Japanese swords were awesome, Chen Zhao would slap you in the face. This kind of conflict wouldn't hurt the other country's people, and there would never be an end to it. Today, Chen Zhao had proven that China's swords were awesome, but it might not be the end. Other than Higashino Tengsi's stubbornness in his profession, he was easy to get along with. His family looked like a normal Japanese family. His wife, Riko Odawara, was also full of the virtuousness of Japanese women. To be honest, when Chen Zhao was in university, he'd wanted to find a Japanese woman to spend the rest of his life with. At that time, there was a saying on the internet: Japanese women were the most virtuous and gentle women in the world. At that time, Chen Zhao was also affected by this theory. But then he met his first love. Chin-san, I'm sorry, but I still have the same request. As long as you can help me find the demon sword passed down in my family and subdue the Ghost King, I'll accept your invitation. Okay, Chen Zhao said. I'll do my best to help you find the demon sword. Mr. Higashino, do you have any clues? West asked. Because the Ghost King is sealed in the demon sword, it has the ability to confuse people. The Ghost King's demonic aura will also spread from the sword to the user, causing the user to be filled with demonic aura. At the same time, the user will show signs of demonization. Other than that, if the demon sword kills the 9 couples, the seal on the Ghost King will be completely undone. By then, the user will completely become a demon and become the host of the Ghost King. Are there any more clues? Oh! The user of the demon sword will become disgusted. He won't go out during the day and will only come out at night. Since the user of the demon sword will be controlled, isn't it easy to unseal the seal? It's not complete control. Unless the user is a violent and bloodthirsty person, there's still a basic moral bottom line. The demon sword will keep bewitching the user. The first to be killed will most likely be the person who has a grudge against the user. West's heart jumped. So the first victim might be related to the user of the demon sword? It's very likely. Mr. Higashino, look at these photos. Chapter 1197. Hi, Chin. An unfamiliar number called Chen Zhao, but the voice was familiar. It was the female pirate, Gurette. Gurette, what's up? I remember you told me that Nanchi Island won't surface until mid-March, right? I'm not asking you to leave now. The news about Nanchi Island has been leaked. I know that a few forces have entered the island's waters. Who are they? Pirates and mercenaries. Are you worried that someone will get there first? No, I'm not worried. I just feel that the news is very strange, Gurette said. It seems like someone is spreading the news on purpose. Anyway, it's not me. You're not suspecting me of spreading the news, are you? Of course, I don't believe it's you. On one hand, it was because of Chen Zhao's credibility. On the other hand, Chen Zhao had no motive to leak the news. Didn't you say that there's a naval fleet patrolling that area? Can those pirates and mercenaries get close to that area? In Chen Zhao and Gurette's plan, they had chosen to set off after mid-March to avoid the naval fleet's patrols. Gurette was an experienced pirate. If she had to do this, the other pirates and mercenaries would probably have to do the same too. Going against a naval fleet really wouldn't end well. On the third day after you left Hawaii, the naval fleet entered Nanchi Island's waters again in an attempt to salvage the gold, but they were completely wiped out. Now, there's no naval fleet on Nanchi Island. That area is closed to navigation. Chen Zhao didn't expect such a change. Without the naval fleet, it was much easier for them to move around. However, Chen Zhao had to be more cautious. The annihilation of the naval fleet proved how dangerous the area was. No matter what, the final deciding factor was his own strength. In the past 2 days, Chen Zhao had been consolidating his cultivation. He didn't know how others were doing, but he could feel that ever since he'd comprehended worldly emptiness, his body seemed to have improved in some way. Why did humans pursue evolution? Because it felt good. That was the most fundamental reason. In the past, all living things in the world relied on the natural environment to evolve. However, since humans completed their evolution in a short period of 3 million years and completely dominated the entire Earth, humans stopped evolving. This was because the natural environment could no longer threaten humans. At least in most cases, the natural environment no longer threatened the entire human race. Therefore, the ancients created a cultivation system or sought a breakthrough from other more advanced species. For example, he could borrow the magic of demons or the power of God. Their ultimate goal was to evolve. Whether it was to defeat nature, to defeat enemies, or to defeat their own kind, the ultimate goal of human evolution was to feel good. Why the hell would he evolve if he wasn't happy? Chin, where did you get such a big bird? Fei Lai watched as Chen Zhao set up a huge pot in the yard. It had a diameter of 2 meters and was filled with water from the previous rain. Fei Lai was already used to Chen Zhao bringing back strange creatures to eat from time to time. However, this big wok could only fit 1 piece of meat. Although the undying bird wasn't a super large creature, it was still nearly 20 meters long, almost as long as a small passenger plane. Phoenix, Chen Zhao said, glancing at Fei Lai. Hearing that, Fei Lai's pregnancy was almost affected. Are you serious? Yes, that night I went to hunt the undying bird. At this moment, a bus stopped. The people from the supernatural organization alighted from the bus, including the garde-à-deux. They were no longer unfamiliar with Chen Zhao's home. A few young girls even brought swimsuits and planned to play in the water. Thus, it was more casual. West came over to greet Chen Zhao and Fei Lai. President, what creature is this? Undying bird, this time I called you guys over to eat together. West was even more speechless. Phoenix, can't you use a slightly more serious tone to say this? Oh, where's Gaia? I've already informed her, West asked. Gaia will come later. She's still on set. President, are there any feathers left? Yes. The feathers of the undying bird are very high-level magic materials. Oh, I'll organize them. If you need them in the future, just ask me. Were there any traces of the undying bird in the past? The last time it appeared was 100 years ago, 1914, in the Eifel volcanic area. 1914? That's a special time, Chen Zhao said meaningfully. Yes, the First World War. West nodded. That's why the undying bird is also known as the messenger of disaster. Wait, Chen Zhao said, confused. In the West, the undying bird is called the divine bird. It can bring happiness and hope. The undying bird has different legends and images in Europe, West said. Most of them are vicious beasts that bring disaster and fire. Just then, Lit Grove and Bona arrived too. Both of them were newbies in the supernatural world. When they heard that Chen Zhao was treating them to the undying bird's meat, their eyes almost popped out. Chen Zhao had cut off the thigh. It was only 1/5 of the undying bird's thigh, but it weighed 3 tons. Dad, I want to eat. Jerlin could already smell the meat. She pointed at the pot and drooled. The other pets were the same. They didn't bother and just surrounded the pot, drooling. Wait for your Auntie Gaia to come. Not now. This was a gathering hosted by Chen Zhao. It was basic etiquette to wait for all the guests to arrive. But Jerlin wants to eat. Does your Auntie Gaia treat you well? Jerlin looked conflicted. Then she nodded. Okay, so if you eat, does everyone else have to eat too? What if Auntie Gaia comes and there's nothing to eat? Okay. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai loved little Jerlin, but they couldn't just ask for it. Luckily, Gaia didn't make Jerlin wait for long. When Gaia's car stopped in front of Chen Zhao's house, Jerlin welcomed Gaia with unprecedented enthusiasm. Auntie Gaia! Jerlin pounced at Gaia. Gaia was really flattered. She looked at little Jerlin in disbelief and reached out to pick her up. Jerlin, do you miss Auntie Gaia? Fei Lai covered her mouth and laughed. She's just greedy. Chun won't let her eat if you don't come. Chapter 1198. To be honest, the people in the association all liked the atmosphere of gatherings. Chun Zhao provided good food, and they could talk freely. Gaia, how's the filming going? It's going well. We've already completed the initial stage. Stephen had been working hard for 2 months, but he'd only completed the initial stage. A real high-quality film couldn't be completed in 3 or 4 months. It wasn't that there weren't high-quality films in 3 or 4 months, but they definitely weren't commercial films. No commercial film could be completed in 3 or 4 months. Releasing it at the end of the year was already the most ideal speed. Little Jerlin's mouth was covered in grease. She grabbed a piece of meat and stuffed it into her mouth. Her 2 small front teeth did most of the chewing. Creatures with abundant magic usually had better meat. Magic could improve the quality of meat. At the same time, it could bring some benefits to the human body. Moreover, the remaining magic in the meat would amplify the comfort of the taste. Everyone enjoyed the meal to their heart's content. Even the soup base was packed for everyone to take back. Ritter Grove was the first to leave. He had to rush for the night shift. The next day, Chin Zhao and West went to a restaurant. Not long ago, someone had died here. It was the restaurant manager. He'd been attacked on his way home from the night shift. All the blood in his body had been sucked dry. The police concluded that it was the work of a psychopath. There was nothing they could do about it. There were no clues at the scene. The fatal wound was a 10-centimeter deep cut on the neck. The manager's neck had almost been cut off. Chin Zhao and West each ordered a meal. A woman with big waves walked up to them with their food. "Here are your orders," Yi Zichen said. West took out a $100 bill and handed it to Big Waves. Stunned, Big Waves looked at West. "Sir, did you give the wrong bill?" Tipping was a popular culture in America, but usually waiters in restaurants like this would be given $5 or $10. Very few people would give large bills as tips. Big Waves had met some customers before. They would also give large tips, but most of the time they would make unreasonable requests. Big Waves couldn't help but wonder if the two thought she was that kind of woman. "What's your name?" West asked, looking up. Ella Morgan. "I want to ask you a few questions. If you can answer them, this $100 is yours. My 3 measurements." If it was just her 3 measurements, Ella Morgan wouldn't mind sharing it with others. After all, a $100 tip is not a small amount. "No, I heard that your manager was killed a week ago. Is that right? Who are you?" Ella Morgan asked with a frown. "You don't need to know who we are. You just need to answer our questions. Are you policemen?" "Sort of. A few waves of police officers have already come." "What else do you want to ask? Does the manager have a grudge against anyone in the restaurant?" "Revenge? I don't think so." Ella Morgan shook her head. "But everyone in the restaurant hates him. That guy is a jerk." "How so?" "He often harassed me and the other waitresses. He's also very harsh to everyone. No one feels sad about his death. We're actually happy." Chun Zhao and West glanced at each other. According to Ella Morgan, all the employees in the restaurant were suspects, including Miss Ella Morgan. "Oh, Did you notice that the other employees in the restaurant have some changes in their personalities? Or abnormal behavior? You suspect that the killer is from our restaurant? How is that possible? That day, we were all partying in the bar until dawn. Are you sure? Of course. Didn't the police investigate a few days ago? Ella Morgan looked at Chun Zhao and West. Are you policemen or not? Whatever, we're fine. West stuffed the $100 into Ella Morgan's hand. The two of them didn't even take a bite before they got up to leave. President, do you think the killer is an employee in the restaurant? Could it be that one of the employees found an excuse to leave for a while and then returned to the crime scene after killing someone? Chun Zhao asked. We'll have to find out more from the police. I have a police friend. I'll call and ask. Chun Zhao called David. David, I have a case to ask you. What case is worth your attention? Someone named Voight was killed a week ago. The fatal wound was his neck. His blood was sucked dry. Could it be the work of a vampire? David asked curiously. No, it should be a Japanese katana, Chun Zhao said. This guy is very dangerous. If you encounter him, don't be rash and don't let him get close. Let me check. Which street is it? West Road Street. Got it. I'll send you all the information I can on the case. Okay, thank you. Chun Zhao soon received David's message. The West Road Street police station had taken over the case. There was also some interim evidence. This so-called interim evidence was not the kind that could be used in court. It was used to prove or push the case forward. For example, the police had obtained a recording from the bar. The recording proved Ella Morgan's words. They had indeed partied the whole night in the bar. No one had been there for more than 10 minutes. The bar was more than 25 kilometers away from the crime scene, so they could eliminate the possibility that it was a restaurant employee. 10 minutes was definitely not enough time to commit the crime. It's not a restaurant employee, Chun Zhao said. Could it be that the victim offended someone in his life? West suggested another possibility. From the restaurant employee and the police's evidence, it was clear that the victim was not a likable person. He was harsh to the employees in the restaurant and even touched the waitresses. He did not like his neighbors either. Over the years, he had accumulated many grievances and grudges. Let's go to his house. Maybe we can find some clues. Just then, there was a commotion in the restaurant. Chun Zhao and West turned around and saw Ella Morgan throw a bouquet of roses at a bespectacled man. I said, stop harassing me. I don't like you. Even if all the men in the world die, I won't like you. Chapter 1199. The man in glasses didn't look well. It wasn't just because he'd been pushed down. It was also because of everyone's gazes. Ella Morgan crossed her arms and stood in front of the bespectacled man. That condescending gaze, that disgusted gaze, made the bespectacled man very uncomfortable. You all deserve to die, you bitch. Bitch. Under everyone's gaze, the man in glasses turned around and left with his head lowered. Loser, Ella Morgan said in disdain, twitching her lips. Seeing Chun Zhao and West in the distance, Ella Morgan pointed at them and blew them a kiss from afar. The man in glasses was currently in a trance. He kept muttering, Bitch, I killed that asterisk shoal who harassed you for you. But you still won't look me in the eye. You can go die too. Ella Morgan didn't know that the man in glasses was already holding a grudge against her. A short-haired female colleague came to Ella Morgan's side. Ella, you better be careful. That man looks very uncomfortable. What's there to be afraid of? Ella Morgan said viciously. If he dares to harass me again, I'll castrate him. Where exactly did you meet him? The colleague asked. Not only Ella Morgan, but this female colleague also looked down on the bespectacled man. A woman's first impression of a man was nothing more than his clothes and appearance. She couldn't possibly see through a person's heart at a glance. Any woman would find it hard to accept a man with messy hair and old-fashioned clothes. Women basically called this type of man a loser. I think he's a porter from the airport. He came to our shop a month ago and asked for a cup of coffee for breakfast every day. I talked to him for a while, and then we didn't talk anymore. A few days ago, he wanted my phone number. Of course, I rejected him. I didn't expect him to come again today and want to go on a date with me. I really don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what he's doing. Ella Morgan glanced at the colleague beside her. Gage, where do you plan to go after work? Let's go home, the female colleague Gatla said. You're boring too. Why don't we go to the bar for a drink? There are many handsome guys in the bar we went to last time. Maybe we can get to know one or two. No. Gage rejected Ella Morgan's suggestion. I'd rather watch a soap opera at home. Gage, can I stay at your house for a night? Why are you staying at my place? I was kicked out by the landlord. All right, Gageland said. Then shall we go back together after work? Okay, by the way, I ran out of beer at home. After work, I'll go to the supermarket to buy some beer. Gage looked like an ordinary girl, but Ella Morgan knew that she could hold her liquor very well. Moreover, Gatkala's interests and hobbies were very different from a normal girl. Ella Morgan had been to Gage's house. Gatkala had even set up a workshop in his own house. Every day when he returned home, he would go back and make all sorts of strange things. Sometimes Ella Morgan even wondered if Gage was a man who had been reincarnated into the wrong body. After work, the two of them went straight to the supermarket and brought a few boxes of canned beer out. Gage, are you a monster or not? Don't you think it's heavy? Gage was 7 meters tall, but he didn't look very strong. However, he found it hard to carry a box of canned beer by himself. But Gage was carrying 6 boxes of beer with both hands. Ella Morgan always felt that there was a monster living in Gage's body. If you're willing to spend an hour working out every day instead of spending it on men, you can too. Is your so-called working out blacksmithing? Gage, wake up. That's not what a woman should do. Women should be like me, dressing themselves up beautifully every day. You have to think of yourself as a princess, not a rough man. Like you, going for an abortion every 6 months on average. Gatkala rolled his eyes, just like how Ella Morgan couldn't understand Gage's way of thinking. Gage also couldn't understand Ella Morgan's way of thinking. After putting the beer in the trunk, the two of them drove home. Don't get touchy, bitch. Gage couldn't stand Ella Morgan anymore. This woman was completely unscrupulous. She was already groping her in the car. You don't have any muscles, so why are you so much stronger than me? Gage rolled his eyes at Ella Morgan. A person's strength isn't all in their biceps. If you want big muscles, you should go watch bodybuilding competitions. When they arrived at Gakira's house, Ella Morgan opened the door and went in. Ella, aren't you going to move the beer? Gage carried 7 boxes of beer in. You can move them without me, Ella Morgan said. Gage, the land around here is all yours, right? Yes. If a real estate developer takes a liking to this land, you'll be rich. Forget it. It's such a remote place. Even if I sell it, I won't be able to sell it for much. It's indeed a bit remote, but if you sell it, you'll definitely be able to open your own restaurant. By then, I'll be your manager. If that day really comes, I'll definitely ask you to be the manager. Gage took a can of beer and went to the workshop in the back. Ella Morgan followed him to the back. The workshop was a small blacksmith shop. Gage skillfully opened the vent of the furnace. Air entered the furnace, and the flames inside immediately rose. On the other hand, Ella Morgan took down an exquisitely crafted longsword hanging on the wall. It's heavy. What's this thing used for? This is a restoration of a game item. This sword was reserved by a gamer. It's $1,200. Ella Morgan sucked in a breath of cold air. So expensive? Then aren't you rich? It's only $1,200. Is there a need to make such a big deal out of it? Also, I spent half a month making this sword. On average, I didn't even earn $100 a day. This is extra income on top of your job, Ella Morgan said. I really want to learn from you. Forget it. You can't even pick up that hammer. Gage, although I'm not as strong as you, you're underestimating me. That hammer looks like it's only about 20 kilograms. You can try it. Unconvinced, Ella Morgan went to the hammer. She held the handle and wanted to lift it, but she realized that the hammer was heavier than she thought. Chapter 1200. Gage lifted the hammer with one hand. Ella Morgan looked at Gage. Do you have the blood of a berserker? Gage froze for a moment, but then he rolled his eyes. You know berserkers too? I thought a woman like you wouldn't know the word. Please, I played games in school too. Do you really think I'm a brainless idiot with big boobs? This sword was a replica of a very famous weapon in the game, Frostmourne. Ella Morgan held the sword and waved it around. The sword weighed more than 10 kilograms, but it was definitely lighter than the hammer. Ella Morgan was also in a playful mood. She let out a yelling sound. Gatella ignored Ella Morgan, holding a hammer and pounding on the workbench. After playing for a while, Ella Morgan came to the workbench. She was about to reach for a piece of metal in front of her. Gage stopped her. Use tweezers. This piece of metal just came out of the furnace. It's still very hot. Ella Morgan used the tweezers to pick up the piece of metal. It's so heavy. Is this steel? Why do I feel like it's heavier than gold? Alloy, Ella Morgan said calmly. Are you forging a weapon in the game too? No. Gage shook his head. The items in the game won't be this heavy. If this axe isn't a game item, what is it? Weapon. People buy this? Yes, Gage said calmly. Just then the doorbell rang. I'll go open the door, Ella Morgan said. It was mainly because the temperature in the workshop was a bit high. In just 10 minutes, she was already drenched in sweat. Ella Morgan opened the door and saw the bespectacled man standing at the door. Why are you here? The man with glasses raised his head and pushed up his glasses. A strange smile appeared on his face. I don't want to see you. Ella Morgan frowned and closed the door, but in the next moment, the door was suddenly pierced. Ella Morgan was startled when the sharp blade was thrust into her chest. Then the blade moved up and the door and connected wall were cut open. Ah! Ella Morgan jumped in fright and screamed. When Gatcala heard the cry, he ran out with his hammer. Seeing the door that was cut open, Gatcala could not help but frown. She had never seen anyone who dared to cause trouble at her place. Gage, hurry up and call the police. This madman has a knife. Gatcala looked at the bespectacled man outside the door. The man's aura made him feel even more uncomfortable. This man is weird. She had already sensed that there was something strange about him. Now the ominous aura around him was even stronger, and the katana in his hand, it gave Gakira the feeling of evil. Who are you? If you don't leave now, I won't be polite anymore. Jankira scolded as she gripped her hammer tightly. At that moment, the bespectacled man gripped the katana's hilt with both hands, raised it above his head, and slashed at the half of the door. Hiss! Gage instinctively pushed Ella Morgan down and dodged at the same time. A saber chi slashed across the walkway, leaving a shocking saber mark on the floor and ceiling. The wooden structure of the house was almost split open by the bespectacled man. Ella Morgan's face paled in fear. What kind of monster was this? Gatcala's expression became even more solemn. This guy was scarier than he had imagined. A sudden burst of strength burst out of Gatcala's right arm as he raised his hammer and smashed it at the bespectacled man. The bespectacled man immediately blocked the katana in front of his chest. The hammer smashed onto the katana, but the force did not diminish, sending the bespectacled man flying more than 10 meters away. Gatcala rushed out of the house and stood in front of the bespectacled man. At the same time, she grabbed the air with her right hand, and the hammer that had been sent flying returned to her palm. Ella Morgan looked at Gatcala in shock. Gatcala, you're Thor, right? The hammer in your hand is Thor's hammer, isn't it? Gatcala glanced at Ella Morgan from the corner of her eye. What are you doing out here? It's too dangerous out here. You'll protect me, right? Gatcula's expression darkened. She had rushed out of the house to protect Ella Morgan. In the end, Ella Morgan ran out herself. Although the bespectacled man was sent flying, he stood in front of Gatcula without a scratch on him. "Ella, did you see that? Did you see my power? Are you still going to reject me now?" The bespectacled man's face seemed a little twisted. His expression that was close to being abnormal was really hard for women to accept. "I won't like you. Just give up, you pervert. Do you know what I've done for you? I killed that restaurant manager of yours for you. Do you know how much I've done for you?" His words did not change Ella Morgan's mind. It only made her more afraid and more resistant to the bespectacled man. You pervert. If a woman wanted to like a man, the first thing she needed was a sense of security. Obviously, the bespectacled man did not give her any sense of security. In Ella Morgan's eyes, this man was a perverted murderer. What Ella Morgan said made the bespectacled man even more furious. The bespectacled man raised his sword and slashed at Ella Morgan from a distance of more than 10 meters. The aura of the blade cut through the air and attacked Ella Morgan with a tearing force. Gatcula slammed his hammer on the ground. The ground immediately formed a shockwave that spread in all directions. At the same time, it also dispersed the aura of the blade. The bespectacled man was also affected by the shockwave. He was sent flying and crashed into a tree behind him. Unfortunately, the devil's blade in his hand also flew out in the air and pierced through the bespectacled man's body. Gatcula heaved a sigh of relief. His luck was really good. "Is he dead, Gatcula?" "I don't know, but he definitely can't fight anymore." Gatcula glanced at the bespectacled man whose body was pierced through. Just then, Gatcula noticed a black sports car parked not far from his house. Honestly, he did not believe that the car belonged to the bespectacled man. If the bespectacled man could drive that car, he would not be called a loser by Ella Morgan. "Whose car is that?" Gatcula asked. "Is it this guy's?" "No. I remember this pervert's car is a very old one." Just then, the black sports car drove over. Ella Morgan realized that the two people in the car were the ones who came to her restaurant today. "Miss, are you a berserker?" West looked at Gatcula and asked curiously. "Who are you?" Gatcula's expression was still vigilant. "We're the same kind of people as you. How about joining us?" West asked. "Not interested. This is my home. You better leave immediately." Chapter 1201. When Chen Zhao and West were at the entrance of the restaurant, they'd already realized that there was something wrong with this guy. So when the bespectacled man tailed Ella Morgan and Gatcula, they were also tailing the bespectacled man. They'd wanted to stop them, but Gatcula had already charged out. West had discovered something special about Gatcula. That was why they were watching from the side. Jankira's strength was also at the bottom of the pack in the association. He could probably only be compared to Jalanash in the past. If it was the current Jalanash, she could probably make Gatcula kneel down in 1 minute. However, West felt that Gatcula's bloodline was full of potential. Maybe she'd become the next Gaia. Even if she couldn't become the next Gaia, becoming the next Jalanash wouldn't be bad either. Right now, the guy's face was completely different from a human's. The muscles on his face were completely twisted, making him look like a monster. A pair of spiral horns grew out of his head. He had a green face, fangs, and a bloody mouth. Of course, he was also called a ghost in Japan. His body also became bigger and bigger, and his clothes were almost torn apart. Gatcula looked at the guy who'd turned into a ghost. Right now, the guy's demonic aura was many times stronger than before. "All of you must die, all of you," the guy said in a hoarse voice. Grabbing the hammer, Gatcula stared at the guy with a serious expression. Chen Zhao immediately started the car and hid far away. What a joke! His car was worth almost $2 million. If he got involved in their battle, he'd lose $2 million in 1 round. Seeing Chen Zhao and West escape, Gatcula sneered inwardly. He was indeed unreliable. During the battle earlier, he only dared to peep from a dark corner. Now that he saw this thing attack again, he escaped again. Just then, the green ghost charged over with a katana and slashed at Gatella. Gatella hurriedly raised his hammer to block. However, a corner of the hammer was cut off by the katana. Gatella, on the other hand, was under great pressure and took a dozen steps back. Qin Zhao sat on the back of the car and watched the fight between Gatella and the green ghost. Wes leaned against the back of the car. "President, aren't we going to help?" "Don't worry, this girl won't die anytime soon. Also, didn't you see? After the Ghost King took the initiative, it didn't really use its full strength. It didn't kill on purpose. Genkira barely blocked Green Ghoul's attack, but even Ella Morgan could see that Genkira couldn't beat Green Ghoul. Ever since the bespectacled man transformed into a green ghost, both his strength and speed had greatly increased. Genkira found it hard to even breathe after being struck by the green demon's attack. "Is this all you've got? If that's all, then you should be more honest. That way, you can suffer less pain." Green Ghost easily slashed out a terrifying attack with one hand. Gatella spat out another mouthful of blood to block the blow. "Hey, do you need our help?" Qin Zhao called. Gatella snorted coldly. "Just mind your own business. If I die, you won't be able to escape death either." Genkira calmed his mind and focused on dealing with the green demon. Gatella's heart skipped a beat as she suddenly realized a problem. This bespectacled man was definitely an ordinary person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have become a loser in other people's eyes. The problem was definitely the katana in his hand. No one knew where he obtained this evil katana from, and how he obtained the power of the katana. However, he was clearly controlled by the katana too. If she could destroy the katana, perhaps it would end. Genkira's skin started turning red. Her eyes were as red as a bull's. Even her hair grew longer. Fuck, she can't be a Super Saiyan, right? That's the Berserker bloodline. She's more like the Hulk than a Super Saiyan, Wes said. Wes said the angrier a Berserker is, the more powerful they are. Furthermore, they can control and accumulate their anger. Then, when they need to, they can release their anger. However, this method of releasing anger can increase their strength for a short period of time, but it can only last for a short time. After this state of rage ends, they will enter a period of weakness. An angry roar came from Gakella's mouth as the hammer in his hand swung out fiercely. Green Ghoul's katana also slashed at the hammer. Clang! In an instant, the katana in Green Ghoul's hand was shattered. At the same time, Green Ghoul also suffered a frontal attack from the hammer. His huge body flew out. Whoosh, whoosh, Genkira panted heavily. In that instant, she had accumulated all her strength into one attack. After this attack, a sense of weakness hit her. The feeling of weakness was too strong. Genkira could barely stand. She knelt on one knee. "Genkira, are you okay?" Ella Morgan hurried over and helped Genkira up. I'm fine." Genkira's legs were weak. Just then, Qin Zhao and Wes came over again. "Girl, what do you think about our previous suggestion?" Qin Zhao asked. "I won't join you," Genkira said with determination. "I see." Qin Zhao glanced at Green Ghoul in the distance. "The battle isn't over yet. That demon's sword needs to kill 9 men and 9 women to be unsealed, but you shattered it directly. Now, that ghost has come out earlier." Genkira looked in Green Ghoul's direction. Indeed, she saw Green Ghoul stand up from the ground. Just then, thick demonic aura was released from the broken pieces of the demon's sword. Behind the green ghost, there was already a terrifying ghost face. "Stupid human, it's all because of you that I'm free." Green Ghoul didn't have a weapon now, but his aura was 10 times stronger than before. Qin Zhao glanced at Green Ghoul and then said to Genkira, "If you're willing to join us, we'll help you deal with this guy." "Do you know what you're saying? Can you deal with this thing?" To be honest, Genkira felt that Qin Zhao and Wes joining them was just 2 more victims. They couldn't defeat this thing at all. That kind of unprecedented evil was not something that humans could contend against. That's our problem. Do you agree? Qinzhao asked. Gakira's eyes flashed. Are you really going to deal with that monster? As long as you join us, we'll help you. What organization are you, exactly? Supernatural organization. That useless organization? Chapter 1202. What Gatkala was thinking now was to let the two idiots deal with the green ghost while she pulled Ella Morgan and ran away. Just then, Qinzhao's phone rang. It was Gaia. Chen, where are you now? I'm in Mary's sector. It's a bit remote. Not far from me. Norma just called me and said that Pamela's going to complete her transformation tonight. Oh, what are you doing in Mary's sector? There's a ghost from Japan. Qinzhao took a photo and sent it to Gaia. It looks really strong. Even though it's just a photo, I can feel the evil aura from it. It was mainly because the green ghost was too ugly, which was why everyone only cared about appearances. Give me the location and leave the ghost to me, Gaia said. Then you better hurry. I'm not sure if I can leave it until you get here. I'll come as fast as I can. Gakira glanced at Qinzhao. Do you have reinforcements? Yes. Gakira realized that Qinzhao and West weren't worried at all. He guessed that the reinforcements would be very strong. But would they make it in time? The green ghost didn't attack immediately. It also had to recover to its strongest state. The demonic aura emitted from the broken demonic blade had already been completely released. The green ghost was absorbing all the demonic aura. The more it absorbed, the stronger it became. Finally, it absorbed all the demonic aura. At this moment, Azure Ghost finally revealed his most terrifying aura and terrifying pressure. Green Demon looked at the crowd and grinned, revealing his bloody mouth. I haven't eaten anyone in a long time. It cackled. Ella Morgan was so scared that she was trembling. It looked at Ella Morgan and licked its lips. Don't worry, I won't eat you. Ella Morgan was even more terrified. She could imagine how the monster would torture her. Suddenly, Ella Morgan and Gakira realized that there was a patch of red light in the night sky behind the green ghost. There seemed to be a ball of fire in the middle of the red light. Missile? The two girls were confused. Suddenly, the fireball lowered its altitude, and its flight trajectory seemed to be falling diagonally. Green Ghost also felt something approaching from behind, so he turned around to look. By then, the ball of fire had already landed on its body. Bang! This unexpected attack came too suddenly. The huge impact and scorching heat enveloped Green Ghost. Flame Blast also rushed towards Ella Morgan, but Gage pulled Ella Morgan behind him. Amidst the smoke and dust, two figures were fighting fiercely. Dragon? Ella Morgan's eyes widened as she stared at the figure that was gradually becoming clearer. Then they saw Green Ghost being thrown in front of them. One of Green Ghost's arms was torn off, and purplish-green blood flowed from the wound. He looked very miserable. Gaia stood there in her fire dragon form. When she first transformed into a fire dragon, her body was more than 5 meters long. Now she could reach 7 meters. She was also bigger than Abito's. Of course, she was different from Abito's. Abito's bloodline was purer than hers, so he grew faster. Those fiery red scales were filled with a dignified sense of oppression, causing Ella Morgan and Gakira to be filled with awe. Gakira looked at Qinzhao and West. Were these their so-called reinforcements? No wonder they were so confident. With a fire dragon like this, was there any enemy they couldn't defeat? Just as Gakira's thoughts were running wild, Gaia attacked Green Ghost again. Green Ghost was quite strong, but it was still much weaker than Gaia. Moreover, ever since she could transform into a fire dragon, Gaia's appetite had become somewhat twisted. For example, she tore off Green Ghost's arm and swallowed it directly. Whether it was in terms of power, speed, or mana, Gaia was far superior to Azure Ghost. In terms of attributes, she crushed Green Ghost too. Green Ghost didn't plan to continue fighting. He wanted to escape, but the sudden arrival of the fire dragon made him unable to fight back. But Gaia clearly didn't plan to let him escape so easily. She spat out a mouthful of dragon breath at Green Ghost's back, and he was blown to the ground. Gaia pounced and killed him with one bite. Half of Green Ghost's body was gone. Gaia bit again, and Green Ghost didn't even have any scraps left. After swallowing Green Ghost, Gaia finally recovered her human form. Ella Morgan and Gikira stared at Gaia in shock. This big woman was transformed from the fire dragon? Are you full? Chen Zhao went up to greet Gaia. Not bad. It's rare to have an opponent like this. Gaia looked at Ella Morgan and Gikira. Who are they? That girl has the Berserker bloodline. Chen Zhao pointed at Gikira. You're Gikira, right? We helped to get rid of your enemies, so either you join us or we'll let Gaia eat you. Gaia rolled her eyes. Is this how you threaten people? Little girl, don't be scared. I don't eat people, nor will I force you. If you're not willing, then forget it. I'm willing, Gikira said. Hello, Miss Fire Dragon. I'm Gikira. Gikira looked at Gaia with admiration. What about me? Ella Morgan asked. I want to join you too. What abilities do you have? Seduce men. The group brought Gikira back to the headquarters. Ella Morgan had no home to go back to, so she followed them for the time being. Gikira had heard of the supernatural organization in the past, but she hadn't heard anything positive from her own kind. Weak and useless, that was what she'd heard. However, after coming to the organization, she realized that it was really rich. At least, the headquarters building before them was enough to prove how rich it was. The gatekeeper was a normal old man. It seemed that the supernatural organization wasn't strong after all. The only one who was powerful was probably Gaia. Gikira had been calculating the organization's strength in her mind. Just then, a group of evil spirits walked toward them. Gikira jumped, thinking that they were being attacked by evil spirits. However, when the evil spirits arrived before them, they didn't attack. President, Lady Pamela's aura is becoming chaotic tonight. According to the records of the transformation process, on the night she completes the transformation, she will attract a large number of evil spirits to attack. Even we are affected now. As time goes by, this effect will become stronger. Then it won't just be us. I'm afraid that even evil spirits from outside will be attracted to Lady Pamela's aura. If you think you can't control it, then lock yourselves in the dungeon. Don't come out and cause trouble, Chen Zhao said calmly. If you don't have the self-control and still come out, I'll kill you first. The evil spirits didn't dare to be impudent before Chen Zhao. They knew that Chen Zhao would definitely do it. If anyone can maintain their self-control and do something tonight, you'll be in the second batch of transformation. West, you're in charge of recording the evil spirits participating in the battle tonight. Yes, President. Chapter 1203. Gage still didn't understand the situation. Ella Morgan didn't seem to either. Miss Gaia, do you have any plans tonight? Gage asked. No, Gage said. Go rest with your friends. To Gaia, Gage was still very weak. There was no need for her to get involved in this battle. Gage wasn't an idiot. Even Ella Morgan could tell that something was up. Gage saw that the people of the Lightning team were fully armed and prepared their guns. It seemed like a huge battle was about to happen. Oh, send Pamela to the front hall, Chen Zhao said. Let us watch her. Previously, Pamela had been in the evil spirit nest, guarded by an evil spirit. However, when the transformation was complete, Pamela would release her aura. At this moment, Pamela was like a piece of cheese covered in cream. Almost all the evil spirits in the city would be attracted to Pamela. Even the original evil spirit subordinates would be affected by Pamela. Therefore, it was very unsafe to let the evil spirits continue to protect Pamela. Of course, this was just a temptation. Any evil spirit with a bit of rationality could resist it. Chen Zhao didn't ask the evil spirit group of the association to join the battle. They could choose to imprison themselves and temporarily send them to the dungeon. Of course, they could also choose to join the battle and help the association defend against the evil spirits. However, if they lost control when the evil spirits attacked, Qin Zhao wouldn't be merciful to them. I can stay and help, Gage said. No, you won't be able to help. Then why can this old man do it? Gage pointed at Aduz and then at Lisa. If this girl can do it, why can't I? Aduz was fully armed at the moment. As the Chinese said, he was getting stronger with age. Aduz was now armed to the teeth. As the Chinese said, he was getting stronger with age. As for Risa, she was still playing with her phone with her legs crossed. As for Lisa, she was still playing with her phone with her legs crossed. The relaxed people were relaxed, while the nervous people were nervous. For example, the people of the lightning team were equipping and inspecting their weapons. Another group of people were playing cards in a circle or sleeping on the sofa in the front hall. Pamela was sent to the front hall. Gage looked at her in the glass container. Pamela's body emitted an aura that made people's hearts tremble. What is she? She is a member of the society. In words that you can understand, she is evolving. She's not human. She's dead, an evil spirit. Padalu and Jolig were adjusting the equipment. Padalu had been working on his laptop the entire time. Suddenly, Padala stopped. President, dozens of evil spirits have entered the association's territory. In Jinkira's opinion, a few dozen wraiths were already a terrifying number. However, the people from the association continued to do what they were supposed to do. No one said anything. At this moment, the lights in the front hall began to flicker. Bang! Before Klaus could open fire, Aduz fired first. An electric arc shot out. An evil spirit was shot by Aduz in front of everyone. Jinkira's face was filled with astonishment. She wouldn't be surprised if anyone here could destroy that evil spirit. However, the person who had just made a move was actually the person who was least likely to make a move. Aduz, your reaction is really fast, Klaus said. I go to the Tower of Trials every day. I didn't learn anything else, but I learned how to shoot, Aduz said. Aduz might be the most relaxed in the association, but there was also a restless soul in his heart. He went to the Tower of Trials every day. As a regular person, there was no doubt about what would happen. Even Klaus and the other members of the Lightning team would most likely die in the Tower of Trials, let alone Aduz. By now, the wind was howling outside the glass window. Countless evil spirits were wandering outside. Evil spirits cried and howled outside. Occasionally, some would charge into the front hall. When Chen Zhao saw the evil spirits shatter the glass window of the headquarters, he immediately stood up. President, don't do it, Norma said. Everyone else had the same expression. If Chen Zhao attacked, they wouldn't be able to do anything. They all knew Chen Zhao's strongest ability, evil spirit killer. They didn't want Chen Zhao to ruin such a rare battle. What were dozens of evil spirits to the association? The few members of the Lightning team could deal with them together. Norma could deal with them alone. Gaia could deal with them alone. Jolene and Nash could deal with them alone too. A few dozen evil spirits were nothing to them. Moore had walked out of the front hall. He'd always been a person with no sense of presence in the association. In the past, he'd been the main fighting force in the association. But after Chen Zhao came, his growth couldn't keep up with everyone else. Even his little brother, Mo Air, had grown faster than him in the past. Of course, it wasn't that Morad didn't work hard. He worked harder than anyone else. His strength wasn't just related to magic power. Compared to others, his magic power indeed didn't grow fast enough. But he was the messenger of nature. As long as he had the seeds of some magic plants, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds. Morad casually tossed out a handful of unknown seeds. The seeds quickly stuck to the spirits of the surrounding evil spirits. Then, the seeds grew rapidly on the evil spirits' bodies, turning into watermelon-sized spores. Soon the spores exploded. The surrounding evil spirits were instantly crushed. Mord killed half of the evil spirits in one go. These were the seeds of magic spores. After receiving magic power, they could quickly attach to the surrounding creatures and grow. In an extremely short time, they completed a cycle of development and growth before exploding. Morid also had the ability to catalyze plants. He could control the growth speed of the magic spores and when they exploded. Of course, as the messenger of nature, seeds couldn't increase his strength. These seeds needed to be nurtured. Because Morid spent a lot of time nurturing the seeds, his cultivation time was naturally reduced. This was also the reason why the growth of his magic power was not fast. But aside from Chun Zhao, no one else could destroy so many evil spirits in one strike. Morid's growth is surprising, Gaia said, looking at the fierce battle outside. He should be able to reach the second level of the Tower of Trials, right? He's in Patya's team, Wes said. They've always been in the Tower of Trials together, so he hasn't been able to reach the second level. With that, Wes looked back at Patya. Patya blushed and lowered her head. It seemed that they had feelings for each other. Chapter 1204. Genkira was completely speechless. Because there were 20 to 30 people in the lobby, no one cared whether Morid won or lost. No one cared how dangerous it was outside. What everyone cared about was whether Morid and Patya had gotten on the bus. Suddenly, a huge shadow loomed over the association. Everyone saw that it was a group of evil spirits. It was made up of hundreds of evil spirits. This evil spirit group was filled with an unsettling aura. This aura was different from Gaia's dragon aura, nor was it like the evil of the green ghouls. Instead, it was a feeling that would make one's emotions uneasy and restless. Genkira subconsciously roused the berserker's anger, and his skin turned red. Gaia pulled Genkira back. You just fought and haven't recovered yet. We don't need you. Genkira looked at Gaia. Are you going to fight? If it was Gaia, Genkira believed that she could defeat the twisted, filthy thing in the sky. Not yet, Gaia said, looking up at the sky. A green light appeared in the sky. Genkira seemed to hear the sound of hooves. He looked up and saw a green flame spreading in the sky. It was a horse burning with green flames. Nightmare. That's right, it was Nightmare. The legendary Nightmare. Norma closed her eyes and spread her arms. She was controlling Nightmare. Or rather, she was Nightmare. Nightmare's 4 limbs stepped heavily on the evil spirit group. The evil spirit group was stomped to the ground, and Nightmare had butted it again. But this time, the collision didn't cause any physical damage. Nightmare directly passed through the evil spirit group. When the shapeshifter emerged from another direction, its body was already shackled with countless chains. The other side of the chains was connected to the evil spirit group. Every evil spirit in the evil spirit group was chained up by a chain. Nightmare's lead. The evil spirit group was led by Nightmare. Dream enslavement. The evil spirits were like marionettes of the Nightmare, and they were enslaved and controlled by the Nightmare. They began to attack other evil spirits that weren't enslaved. Genkira's face was full of shock. It turned out that apart from Gaia, the supernatural organization had such a powerful witch. However, the previous attacks were just a prelude. The number of evil spirits increased. Helis also took action. Her 12 brothers and sisters turned into evil spirits and were fighting for her. Her 12 brothers and sisters were not ordinary evil spirits. They all possessed magic and magic from when they were alive. The other members of the association also joined the battle one after another. Support players like West and Patya also joined the battle. Only Gaia and Chun Zhao watched the battle calmly. Pamela had attracted too many evil spirits. To these evil spirits, Pamela, who had yet to awaken, was nourishment. It was a temptation that came from the depths of one's soul. The evil spirits of the association also joined the battle. Although it was only a small portion, it was not only because of their strong willpower, but also because of their fear of Qin Zhao. Their fear of Chen Zhao made them overcome their instincts. To put it bluntly, it was impulsiveness and restraint. Although this kind of instinctive impulse was hard to resist, it wouldn't make him lose his mind completely. They knew Qin Zhao. They knew how terrifying he was. Compared to the instinctive temptation, their fear of Qin Zhao was also ingrained in their bones. Helis getting more and more proficient in death magic. Norma's using of her bloodline has improved a lot too. Help. Just then, Aduz ran toward Chen Zhao and Gaia. Although most of the time, he only went up to cause trouble. No one stopped him. If these old bones of his want to move, then let him move a little. If not, Chen Zhao wouldn't mind if he stayed in the association and retired. Aduz was smart. He knew that running toward Chen Zhao and Gaia was the safest. However, to Gaia's surprise, the evil spirit that was chasing Aduz suddenly let out a blood-curdling screech before dissipating with a wail. Gaia looked at Qin Zhao. She had seen Qin Zhao in the past. When facing evil spirits, he didn't do anything and just made them disappear. But she couldn't tell how he did it. Not just her, even Alice, who had the most comprehensive knowledge of magic, didn't know. In the past, Qin Zhao had used Blackie's ability because no one could see him. But now, Qin Zhao had his own small world. Against a regular evil spirit, Chen Zhao's small world could easily destroy it. Of course, this was only against regular evil spirits. If it was a stronger creature, the ability would be useless. Right now, most of the association's building was enveloped in Chen Zhao's small world. Actually, even if Aduz didn't forget to run toward Qin Zhao, he wouldn't be in danger. Aduz knew that it was safe, so he told Chen Zhao and Gaia and then went to kill evil spirits. This old man wants to prove himself more than anyone else, Gaia said, looking at Aduz's back. Oh, does Aduz have any family? Yes, I remember he said that because his daughter and son-in-law don't have a high income, he came out to work. Then he was hired by West. His family always thought that he was a security guard in a regular company, Gaia said. But he doesn't dare to let his family know that he's doing such a dangerous job. So he only puts a portion of his income into his daughter's bank card. Ever since Chen Zhao became the president of the supernatural organization, the benefits and salaries of the members had increased greatly. Of course, Aduz was one of them. Qin Zhao's original intention was that since they'd chosen to join the association, it was a dangerous job. At the very least, he had to make sure that everyone wouldn't encounter difficulties because of their family's burden. Oh, how's your son? He's already adapted to the environment here. Gaia smiled. Chen Zhao's expression was one that he would only show to his closest family. When he talked about Jerlin, he had the same feeling. Next time the association travels, bring your son. We'll see. Gaia stood up. She wasn't really willing to bring her son to mingle with the people from the association. It wasn't that she looked down on the people in the association. It was just like a father who was a cop but didn't want his son to be one too. Jankira looked at Chen Zhao and Gaia speechlessly. Couldn't they tell how dangerous the situation outside was? They were just talking about their daily lives, right? Suddenly, Jankira heard a sound from behind. Jankira turned around and saw a crack on the glass container. Qin Zhao and Gaia also looked at the glass container. Chapter 1205. Cracks kept spreading on the glass container. Gatella suddenly took a few steps back. She could feel a terrifying chill seeping out of the container. Even though the container wasn't opened yet, the cold air seeping out of the cracks already made her shiver uncontrollably. Pamela destroyed the container herself and then walked out. Pamela was a spirit, but because the container wasn't ordinary glass, spirits couldn't penetrate it. Pamela's aura and temperament had completely changed. Pamela was feeling the unfamiliar power in her body. Gage looked at Pamela. Pamela was giving off an oppressive feeling that came from deep within her soul. Pamela was a wailing banshee. She still couldn't control her aura completely, but Pamela could feel that she was many times stronger than before. She even had the vague thought of challenging Qin Zhao. But this dangerous thought only lasted for a moment. Chun Zhao had said that he knew another veteran whaling banshee. Then he definitely knew how strong she was. Pamela landed before Chun Zhao and knelt down to greet him. President. Yes, we're not some feudal organization. Why are you kneeling on the ground? Chun Zhao said calmly. It's a mess outside because of you. Pamela had already noticed the situation outside. President, can you tell them to come back? Are you going to deal with those evil spirits alone? Yes. Pamela nodded. You can all come back. Pamela's already awake. Everyone hurried back to the headquarters and congratulated Pamela. Pamela was an old member. Other than the oldest members, she was the first to join the supernatural organization in Chen Zhao's era. Pamela had a good relationship with the people in the society, so everyone was happy for Pamela's achievements. Pamela walked out of the living room. She was already awake, but the evil spirit's eyes were still shining brightly. It was like a group of dogs looking at a piece of fat meat. Chin, can Pamela deal with it alone? Probably. The other whaling banshee, I know, can do it. Of course, that whaling banshee is stronger than Pamela now. After a short silence, hundreds of evil spirits charged at Pamela. Suddenly, Pamela shrieked. Her voice was like a huge wave of terror rushing in all directions. All the glass windows in the headquarters shattered in an instant. That sound was too impactful. Everything shattered in an instant. Even though Pamela wasn't targeting the members of the union, everyone still covered their ears. Frowning, Chen Zhao immediately used the small world to block the magical attack. The screech of the banshee had a great impact on the soul. To put it bluntly, the banshee's attack was a high-frequency sound mixed with magic. Although the principle was simple, only a banshee could produce such a high-frequency sound. However, this kind of long-range attack without any substance was exactly the kind of attack that the small world could restrain. Only then did everyone feel much better. As for the invading evil spirits, they didn't have his protection, and they were facing Pamela's scream head-on. In an instant, hundreds of evil spirits were crushed. That scene was too shocking. Everything was torn to shreds. Gage's face was full of shock. Was the supernatural organization really the cowardly organization that my friend had mentioned? Everyone here was extremely powerful, and every one of them could take charge of an area by themselves. Even the weakest Adus dared to participate in the battle himself. Even though he couldn't be of much use, his courage was praiseworthy. However, these powerful spiritualists weren't leaders. This Asian was a leader. Gage couldn't understand this. In Gage's opinion, the strongest should be the leader. Or maybe this man was a strategist. He was the president mainly because he could manage. Gage guessed in his heart. However, after seeing the supernatural organization's power, he was interested too. Perhaps joining the supernatural organization was a good choice. He could also grow by interacting with them. Henry, ask your people to repair the headquarters tomorrow. Yes, President. West, arrange the new people's living arrangements and entry procedures. Yes, President. Also, call Dongya Tianqi over tomorrow. We've solved his problem. He should fulfill his promise. Understood. Okay, I'm going back. The next day, Qin Zhao wanted to relax and spend time with Fei Lai and Zherlin. However, he was interrupted by West's call. President, are you free now? Can you come to the headquarters? What's up? Dongya Tianqi and Genkira are fighting. Genkira? The new person from yesterday, right? How did she fight with Dongya Tianqi? Genkira doesn't just have the berserker bloodline. She's also a blacksmith and has the forging skills passed down from her ancestors. Wes said, You should come to the headquarters first. It's hard to explain over the phone. Okay, I'll come now. Chen Zhao thought that it was just a quarrel between two people in the same profession. However, when he arrived at the headquarters, he saw Dongya Tianqi and Genkira slashing at each other with their own weapons. Chen Zhao had seen Genkira's power. He wouldn't dare to say that he was unrivaled, but he was many times stronger than a regular person. However, Dongya Tenchi was using a samurai sword and was also very strong. The two were actually evenly matched. Seeing that the two couldn't decide the winner, Chen Zhao looked at West. West wasn't in a hurry either. He stood at the side with his coffee and savored it carefully. West, how long have they been fighting? Half an hour. Why did they fight? Previously I called Dongya Tenchi over and we had a good talk. Dongya Tenchi only made one request, which was to have a smithing workshop. In the end, Genkira heard it, and Genkira also wanted a smithing workshop. Over time, they started by ridiculing each other, and then they started to say that the other party's smithing skills were mediocre. Then, it's just a competition of forging skills and whose weapons and equipment are better. Is there a need to fight like this? Chapter 1206. Just then Gaia arrived. Beside Gaia was a little boy. He should be Gaia's child. However, Chen Zhao was surprised that Gaia would bring the child here. As for the fight between Dongya, Tenchi, and Gatella, no one cared anymore. The people at the entrance of the headquarters all gathered around Gaia and the boy. The 5-year-old boy looked very shy. "Handsome, what's your name?" Rupert walked up and looked down at the boy. "Evans, you should introduce yourself," Gaia said in a gentle tone while patting the boy's shoulder. The boy poked his head out from behind Gaia. Somewhat afraid, he asked, "Mom, are you going to put me in the orphanage?" Everyone was stunned. The boy seemed to think that Gaia didn't want him anymore. "No, Mom will always love you. No one can make you leave me, except your future wife." No one had ever seen such a gentle Gaia. Morid was like a gangster and still had a mohawk hairstyle, but his bad habits had been corrected under Chen Zhao's pressure. Morid walked up and threw a seed in front of Evans. Immediately, a persimmon tree grew from the ground, covered in golden persimmons. "Little guy, do you want one?" Evans looked at Morid in shock. No one expected Morid to know how to coax a kid. Their impression of Morid was still in the past. After all, he'd been a gangster before. However, after Chen Zhao became the president of the association, he'd gone to Morid's group and hung Morid's friends and himself on the outer wall of the building, forcing Morid to cut ties with them. Only then did Morid stop thinking and stay in the headquarters obediently. "Can I have one?" Of course. Dongya, Tenchi, and Gatella's pride was hurt. Actually, they were a bit tired after fighting for so long. When they saw Chen Zhao, they'd wanted to stop. They'd been waiting for Chen Zhao to stop so that he could judge them. But Chen Zhao had no intention of stopping them at all. Especially after Gaia and Evans arrived, everyone's attention had shifted away from them. This hurt their self-esteem even more. They felt like they were monkeys in a circus, and there was no audience at all. Not long after, Evans was attracted by everyone's enthusiasm and friendliness, and everyone played some small spells for Evans. Chen Zhao and Gaia sat on a nearby bench. "Gaia, why did you bring Evans here?" Chen Zhao asked. "Take a look at this." Gaia took out a few pieces of children's doodles, which were obviously Evans's work. However, these creations looked very strange, because these graffiti made people feel very uncomfortable. That's right, he felt uncomfortable. This was not an abstract painting. It was more like something weird and terrifying had been attached to it. "Have you asked Evans?" "Yes," he said he saw someone following him. His kindergarten teacher also called me and said that Evans seems to be hysterical. He always reports to the teacher that someone is following him. I can't be sure, so I brought him here. You or someone else can take a look. Maybe you guys can give me an answer." He could understand Gaia's uneasiness and worry. If this happened to Jerlin, Chen Zhao would also feel uneasy and worried. As parents, everyone felt the same way. Usually, when he brought Jerlin to the supermarket, if a stranger looked at her too much, Chen Zhao would glare back. "How about this?" Chen Zhao said. "Before we get to the bottom of this, we'll leave Evans in the headquarters. There are many people there. If there's really something unclean, it won't break in. Also, I'll make an amulet for Evans." Recently, Chen Zhao had been studying how to make amulets. There were many amulet-making methods in the Qingyi sect's records. Li Qing's amulet was better than Chen Zhao's. However, Chen Zhao did not want to trouble Li Qing. This was because Li Qing's cultivation was slightly weak and she was old. She had made amulets for Chen Zhao and Ethan, but she had injured herself first. So, Chen Zhao really did not have the courage to ask Li Qing to make another amulet. Jalig, take Evans to the mana testing room and do a full body check on him, Jalig said. Just then, Gakira and Dongye Tianqi stopped fighting. They both came before Qin Zhao. Qin-san, please judge for me. You should call me president now, Qin Zhao said. Actually, Chen Zhao did not care what people called him. But right now, they both had to do the justice himself. Dongye Tianqi's way of addressing him would subtly get closer to Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao hoped to maintain his dignity and fairness before the two rookies. I haven't joined the organization yet. If they can't give me a satisfactory explanation, then I refuse to join. Dongye Tianqi felt that since Chen Zhao and West had interacted with him many times, they must have acknowledged his skills. He believed in his value. The supernatural organization would definitely not give up on him. Unfortunately, he was facing Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao stood up and looked down at Dongye Tianqi. Mr. Dongye Tianqi, you seem to have forgotten your promise. We'll help you deal with Devil Blade and Ghost King, and you won't make any requests to join the supernatural organization. Now, you're going to break your promise. Do you think that I or the supernatural organization can let you come and go as you please? Or could it be that you're just using us? Dongye Tianqi suddenly felt immense pressure. The people around him did not feel anything except for Dongye Tianqi. He felt as if something was pressing down on him. Even the air became extremely heavy. Qin Zhao's unreasonable attitude directly messed up Dongye Tianqi's thoughts. He did not expect Qin Zhao to be so tough. Qin Zhao was also threatening him with what he'd said before. Instantly, Dongye Tianqi lost his composure. He hurriedly said, Qin-sen, President, you've misunderstood. That's not what I meant. I just hope that you can treat me fairly. But you admit that I'm the president, Chen Zhao said coolly. This is a good start. I hate being used, and I hate people breaking their promises even more. Now, if you have any conflicts, just say it. This guy was not strong, but his management and methods were impressive. Chapter 1207. Genkira looked down on Qin Zhao. However, Chen Zhao had enough prestige in the association. Everyone was willing to accept Chen Zhao's management and restrictions. This meant that Chen Zhao was good enough. Genkira didn't plan on challenging Chen Zhao's authority. President, do you think my request is too much? You know how to forge weapons. Magic weapons? Yes. Dongye Tianqi, you're in the wrong. There are more women in the association than men. Your blatant discrimination against women is very unacceptable. Chen Zhao turned his head and looked at Dongye Tianqi. President, I'm not discriminating against women, Dongye Tianqi immediately said. Dongye Tianqi said immediately. If he did not explain himself properly after being accused by Qin Zhao, how could he continue working here in the future? I think that some jobs should be differentiated between men and women. I don't think a woman can forge a good weapon. Dongye Tianqi was actually like most Japanese. He was a straight man or a male chauvinist. Or perhaps it could be called male chauvinism. Perhaps this idea of his could find supporters in Japan. However, this wasn't Japan. Qin Zhao couldn't support this idea no matter what. After all, there are more women than men in the association. You think I'm not as good as you? Then let's compete. We'll compete in our most professional fields. Whoever loses will be the other's disciple. Do you dare? Genkira was infuriated. Actually, if Genkira hadn't said this, Chen Zhao was going to support her and ask Dongye Tianqi to apologize. Because no matter how good Genkira's forging was, Dongye Tianqi's words were very offensive to women. However, Genkira had started this bet herself. What else could Qin Zhao say? Let's compete. If I lose, I'll commit seppuku. Qin Zhao was shocked. This was the most perverted Japanese custom. Qin Zhao respected other people's customs, but he really couldn't stand it in his own territory. If a warrior lost, they would commit seppuku. Circumcision was a very, very painful thing because the victim would not die immediately after being circumcised. Therefore, people who committed seppuku often couldn't complete the process themselves. At this time, there would be a designated executioner. This executioner was called jiakuo. He would wait for the person who was about to perform a disembowelment to be unable to continue. Then, jiakuo would stand behind and chop off the person's head. A competition is a competition, Qin Zhao said coldly. I hope that every member of the association has the courage to take responsibility. If anyone loses, they have to follow the agreement and become the other party's disciple. You can't run away by cutting your abdomen. Qin Zhao didn't want Dongye Tianqi to ruin the atmosphere of the association. If he won and forced Gengora to perform a disembowelment, what would that mean? If he lost, he would happily commit seppuku. How was he going to behave in the society in the future? Besides, Dongye Tianqi still had a wife and daughter, coming to the supernatural organization, and then going home to commit seppuku. How unfair would that be to his wife and child? If Dongye Tianqi wanted to use cruel methods to deal with his enemies, he would not hesitate. Qin Zhao wouldn't object to any kind of method. Anyway, Qin Zhao had done a lot of perverted tortures and killings. He often did things that disgusted him, but he couldn't accept suicide. Yes, President, I'll do that, but I won't lose. But I won't take her as my disciple either. My disciple doesn't need a woman. Qin Zhao covered his head. He already regretted recruiting this iron-willed man. If he'd known, he would have chased him away. How do you guys plan on competing? Qin Zhao asked. Forging weapons, of course, Gengora said. How about this? Dongye Tianqi said. President also needs weapons, so we'll each forge a weapon. Whoever likes the weapon more will be the winner. President, what kind of weapon do you need? Gengora asked. A sword. I want a sword, a heavy sword. The more durable, the better. The hilt must be within the range that a normal person can hold with one hand. Within this range, the heavier, the better. The more durable and heavy, the better. I don't have a strict requirement for mana conductivity. It's best if you can have it, but if not, I won't force it. The heavy sword Qin Zhao wanted was mainly for close-range combat. When he used it, his main attack method was to coordinate with his speed and strength. Mana wouldn't be poured into the sword, so Qin Zhao didn't need much with or without mana conductivity. Qin Zhao thought for a moment and then said, Also, I need 12 light swords. They also have to be durable and have a high requirement for mana conductivity. Qin Zhao wanted 12 light swords to control swords with music, so the higher the mana conductivity, the better. At the same time, he wanted them to be light. Light meant that Qin Zhao could control his music more easily. Actually, compared to the first time, Qin Zhao was already much stronger. He could control more swords now. However, Qin Zhao was more familiar with 12 swords. If he controlled more swords, Qin Zhao's battle rhythm might be messed up. It would be like putting the cart before the horse. Or he could control thousands of swords like Old Turtle, using absolute quantity to make up for quality. If he couldn't reach Old Turtle's level, he'd continue to use 12 swords to fight. When Qin Zhao's quantity increased by leaps and bounds, he would consider practicing more sword riding. President, you asked for a lot. I'm afraid we can't complete it in a short time. Yes, just the materials will take a long time. If you lack any materials, ask West. If the society doesn't have them, we'll try our best to get them for you. If we don't lack materials, we can complete it in about 10 days, Dongye Tianqi estimated. I want the same amount of time, Gatella said. Okay, we'll wait for the 13th. I'll decide who wins and who loses. Chun Zhao looked at West. Go and build 2 workshops. Yes, President. Jiaoleg had just gotten rid of Genkira and Donya Tianqi when he came out with Evans. President, Gaia, how is it? Is there anything strange about Evans? President, Evans is just a normal kid. At least the society's equipment didn't detect any mana in him. Oh, so there's no problem. Chun Zhao asked. Normally, being able to see things normal people couldn't was mostly due to one's spiritual body. But since it was a normal person's body, they probably couldn't see supernatural things. But this made things more troublesome. Chapter 1208. Hysteria was actually a mental illness too. Mental illnesses had always been the most troublesome for humans. Even Chun Zhao was often helpless when it came to mental illnesses, especially children. This was especially true for children. Children's minds were very active, and because they didn't have a complete worldview, they often made some unrealistic fantasies. However, adults often didn't approve of these fantasies. Children would become autistic or even depressed. Mental illnesses mostly required communication and companionship. Gaia, spend more time with Evans. If you don't have time, let the child stay at the headquarters. Of course, it's fine if he goes to kindergarten with children of the same age. Anyway, he needs company. Try not to let Evans be alone. Also, if Evans says that he saw something, don't deny it, regardless of whether you saw it or not. Chen, is Evans's condition serious? Actually, children's minds are the most active when they're 5 to 10 years old. Their brains start to accept large amounts of knowledge, so it's natural for children to fantasize. After this age, children's psychology will gradually mature and their worldview will become complete. They'll gradually forget those unrealistic fantasies. Both fantasies and hysteria only happen when children are lonely. As long as there's company, they won't think too much. Also, we can't be completely sure that Evans is hysteria. It might be something we don't know yet. Gaia looked at Evans from afar. Evans was playing with Rupert at the moment. Right now, Evans didn't seem to have any problems at all. It wasn't that Evans would definitely develop autism or depression. Actually, hysteria was a common mental illness for children. The best treatment for hysteria was companionship. One couldn't use a forceful attitude to deny or correct it. Children believed that what they saw was the truth, even if it was just their imagination. Do you want to see a psychologist? You can see a psychiatrist, but you can't go to a hospital that's too obvious. Children are very resistant to hospitals. Once they find out that they're sent to a hospital, they'll be very sensitive to the fact that they're sick. By the way, I know a psychiatrist. She's also involved in some supernatural incidents. I can make an appointment with her and ask her to come to the headquarters to give Evans psychological counseling. I think you can do psychological counseling. Gaia trusted him more. I know this theoretical knowledge. I've been exposed to such topics in school, but I'm not a professional. Professional matters should be left to the professionals. Okay, make an appointment with that psychologist. Gaia had absolute trust in Chun Zhao. I planned to move to the headquarters. After all, Gaia had her own job, and she was willing to give it up for Evans. However, she was more happy to have the best of both worlds. There was definitely no shortage of people in the headquarters, and most of the people in the headquarters were quite optimistic. Even the gloomy Helios was a girl with a soft heart, and the people here are not prejudiced. In addition, the environment here was good, so Gaia was willing to let Evans live here. Even if Evans had to come into contact with some firearms, as long as Evans's physical and mental health could be improved, it didn't matter. In the afternoon, Chun Zhao received a call from Denver, asking him to return to Mountain Town. He had something to discuss. Not only did Denver invite Chun Zhao, but also Dean Slott. When Chun Zhao saw Dean Slott, he took the initiative to congratulate him. Dean, congratulations. You've been recognized by the townspeople again. To be honest, Chun Zhao was not surprised at all that Dean Slott had become the mayor again. It could be seen from the way the new mayor governed Mountain Town that he didn't have any management talent or political ability. It was impossible for him to defeat the old fox, Dean Sloat, with such a standard. Even when Dion Sloat stirred up trouble in the town, the new mayor did not react in time. By the time he found out, Dean Sloat had already chased him out of office. Ha! Chin, you're joking. I have to thank you. Without your support, I wouldn't have been able to stay as mayor for long. Dean Sloat had promised to rebuild the brewery in 3 months. If he could not rebuild it in 3 months, he would probably become the shortest mayor in Mountain Town's history. That's why I'm here to talk about rebuilding the brewery. I don't think we have any objections to rebuilding the brewery, right? Dean Sloat asked. Indeed. Chen Zhao nodded. At the same time, he glanced at Denver. We just need to discuss some details. Chen, what details do you not understand? The first is the ownership of the brand, Denver said. Chen, do you want to take the old brand for yourself? Not take it for myself. I want to buy it. I hope that there won't be any trademark disputes in the future. You know that trademark disputes are usually caused by multiple owners. So I hope that we can clarify the ownership of the trademark. How much do you want to buy it for? Dean Sloat asked. 500,000, Denver said, picking up where Chin left off. That's impossible. The original Mountain Beer's annual turnover is more than $10 million, and the annual profit is also more than $2 million. You want to buy this trademark with just 500,000 US? That's impossible. Dion Sloat's reaction was very strong. Even Chen Zhao felt that Denver's price was too low, but that was how business was. It was like bargaining in a market. One side would ask for a sky-high price, while the other side would bargain. Chen, Mr. Denver, actually, there's nothing wrong with joint ownership of the trademark. You don't have to spend a single cent to own and use the trademark. I can also promise that I won't interfere with the production and operation of the brewery. Denver did not believe this. Chen Zhao would not believe it either. If the trademark was in someone else's hands, it was like their lifeline was in someone else's hands. If the trademark did not increase its value and earn a few $1 million a year, the Mountain Town government might not take it seriously. But what if the trademark's value increased by 10 times? What if it increased by 100 times? By then, the Mountain Town government would demand a hefty fee for using the trademark. If the two sides could not reach an agreement, even if Mountain Town only owned 50% of the trademark, they could still force the brewery to stop production. The trademark could only be sold with 100% rights. Chapter 1209. In the end, Chen Zhao bought the trademark for $2, $5 million. Usually, the value of a trademark was around 10 times the annual profit of the trademark. However, Mountain Beer's brand value had already dropped greatly because it had left the market. So, $2, $5 million was within a range that both sides could accept. Then, Chen Zhao and Denver were most concerned about the ownership of the land needed to build the factory. First, the production needed water. Then, it needed water from Mirror Lake. So, it couldn't be too far from Mirror Lake. Otherwise, if it was built on Chen Zhao's private land, everything would be fine. But Chen Zhao also didn't want to build a factory on his private land. Although the brewery wouldn't have any pollution problems, Chen Zhao still didn't like it. So, Chen Zhao was more inclined to buy a piece of land near his private land. The land didn't need to be too big. 20 hectares was enough. The difference in land wasn't that big. Of course, Dion Sloat wanted to just rent the land, or exchange the land for a certain share of the brewery's profits. Chen Zhao and Denver, on the other hand, wanted to buy the land directly. Only when everything belonged to Chen Zhao would he be able to make the final decision. Although the Mountain Town government wouldn't make things difficult for the brewery if they rented the land, there was still a certain risk. If they had a falling out in the future, the government would take back the land. Then the brewery would definitely have to move, which would affect production or even stop production. In the end, the value of the brand would be affected. Chen Zhao was someone who liked to have everything in his hands. He was no longer the person who had just come to America and wandered around. He had the power to control everything now. Of course, Chen Zhao would only touch the things and fields that he could control. For example, doing business. Chen Zhao knew that he wasn't cut out for it, so he wouldn't interfere with the brewery's production and management. Nevertheless, Chen Zhao was sure that the brewery could make money. This was why Chen Zhao had entered this industry. Chen Zhao wasn't that great. He wasn't doing this for the people of Mountain Town. At the end of the day, Chen Zhao's goal was simple: to make money. In the end, Chen Zhao bought a piece of barren land 15 kilometers west of Mirror Lake instead of the brewery's original location. Dion was willing to sell the land to Chen Zhao at a low price, but Chen Zhao had to agree to some conditions. For example, within 3 years of the brewery's opening, more than 70% of the employees must be residents of Mountain Town, and the minimum salary must be less than $600 per week. For an ordinary worker, a weekly salary of $600 was considered a normal salary. However, this was only for ordinary employees. The salaries of some technical workers and management personnel were definitely higher than this level. Dion Sloat's request was not only to provide jobs for the town's residents, but also to allow the Mountain Town's employees to infiltrate the management. This was the only way to control the production and operation of the brewery. As for this, Chen Zhao believed that Denver could handle it. After Dean Sloat left, Chen Zhao and Denver discussed again. Chen Zhao realized that if he wanted to achieve something in the first year, he needed to produce at least 100,000 tons. It wasn't a small fight like Chen Zhao had originally planned. In this case, the investment required was very large. To ensure that they did not make a loss in the first year, they would need at least $30 million. This was far more than what Chen Zhao had initially expected. He didn't lack money now. Even if he ran out of money, the bank would be happy to lend him money. This was because Chen Zhao had a lot of high-quality assets. However, the investment of $30 million still exceeded Chen Zhao's initial expectations. Chen Zhao's original plan was to build 2 beer production lines and produce around 20,000 tons per year. However, Denver's plan was to expand the scale of production. The result of expanding the scale of production was, of course, more investment. This wasn't something that could be solved with just a few more production lines. The corresponding facilities also needed to be expanded, such as the fermenter area, the sewage treatment facilities, the storage warehouse, and so on. They all needed to be expanded. The number of employees also needed to be greatly increased. Denver, after the $30 million, I don't need to invest anymore? Chen Zhao asked. Mr. Chen, in principle, you don't need to invest anymore. If you need more, we can get a loan from the bank. I don't like loans. President, you've made a mistake. Taking a loan is actually more cost-effective than taking out money from your personal account. The interest on such a huge loan is usually not very high. In a situation where the income is equal, the bank's interest rate will be much lower than the rate at which your money depreciates if you leave it in the bank. Secondly, after you take a loan from the bank, your interests will be linked to the bank. When you deal with a lot of problems, the bank will help you. For example, if you put pressure on the local government or even the Los Angeles government, the bank will take the initiative to help you. Also, if you contact the seller, the bank will help you as much as possible. Most people's understanding was that the bank was a place to store money. In reality, it wasn't like that. The biggest function of the bank wasn't to store money. The bank was a very complicated business system. They were involved in any industry that could make money. The bank would even own shares in many industries through the mortgage of the borrower. Chen Zhao thought for a moment and said, I said that you'll be in charge of the brewery's production and I won't interfere. If you think that the loan is beneficial to the brewery's development, then we'll do as you say. Denver nodded. He also liked working with a boss like Chen Zhao. For managers, they weren't afraid of ignorant investors. They were afraid of investors who were too controlling. Investors only wanted profits. They didn't need to have an absolute understanding of an industry. However, If they interfered with the manager's arrangements without understanding, they might disrupt the original development process and rhythm. Also, we need to start building the brewery as soon as possible, Denver said. Chunjiao nodded. I'll contact the construction company as soon as possible. After saying goodbye in Denver, Chunjiao called Felwood Cisco. Mr. Felwood, can your company take on another project now? Felwood was still supervising the construction at Chun Zhao's private beach construction site. When he heard Chun Zhao's first sentence, he was dumbfounded. Was this rich guy planning to build something again? I'm planning to invest in a new brewery. The construction will cost around $10 million. Can your company take on this project? Yes, it can. Felwood suppressed his ecstasy. When are you free? Let's talk face to face. He wanted to hug Chen Zhao and give him a big kiss. To him, Chen Zhao was his god of fortune. How about this? I'll go to the beach construction site tomorrow. I want to see how it's going.